Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Chatham Select Board and Chatham Finance Committee meeting of February 3rd, 2026. Let the record show we commenced the meeting at 4:05. I'll read what I need to read, and then we'll get on with the meeting. Pursuant to Governor Healy's March 28th, 2025 signing of Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2025, extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20, until June 30th, 2027. This joint meeting of the Chatham Select Board and Finance Committee is being conducted in person and via remote participation. Every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings as provided for in that order. A reminder that persons who would like to listen to this meeting while in progress may do so by calling the phone number 1-508-945-4410, conference ID 203-386-491#, or join the meeting online via Microsoft Teams through the link in the posted agenda. While this is a live broadcast and simulcast on Chatham TV, now Xfinity Channel 1072, despite our best efforts, we may not be able to provide real-time access. We will post a record of this meeting on the town's website as soon as is possible. Our first order of business here is to establish a quorum of the Board of Selectmen. Mr. Metters?
Present.
Ms. Davis?
Present.
Mr. Smith?
Present.
And the Vice Chair Dykens is present. I suspect that Chair Nicastro is on his way. I think I will convene the Finance Committee as well at this moment. And Andy, I'll hand it off to you.
Great, thank you very much. I'm filling in person for Stephen Daniel, our chair, who is available online. I also see Tommy Doan is online. I'll call the roll. Stephen Daniel?
I am here.
Okay, I'm here. Tommy Doan?
Here.
Eric Whiteley?
Here.
Tracy Shields is absent. Kristen Andrus?
Here.
John Papalardo?
Here.
Barbara Madison?
Here.
Joanne Sprague?
Here.
Right, we have a quorum of the Finance Committee available.
Thank you very much, Andy. Next order of business is minutes. This evening we have none. The next order on the agenda is public announcements and agenda item requests. Do we have any? We have one in here. Mr. Levitt, please approach the microphone.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm Rick Levitt from West Chatham. I just want to make an agenda item request. Mr. Smith, Stuart Smith, has an agenda item request to discuss the affordable housing program here in Chatham. I would like to make the same request.
So noted, Mr. Levitt. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And thank you for your ongoing interest in affordable housing. Any other agenda item requests from the crowd here, the folks here? Anybody online? Any member of the board? I do have one. I'm going to, at some risk, I'm going to ask that we revisit the parade route that we discussed at our last meeting. I won't go into deep detail this evening, but I got home and had some second thoughts and misgivings about the change that was suggested that we, in fact, supported. So I would like to have that, and I'm sure Mr. Nicastro will find a way to get it on the agenda in the very near term, because I think time is somewhat of the essence. So, anyway, so we'll note that. Thank you. And then seeing nobody else out there, and either online or in public, we have no public hearing this evening, and we have no consent agenda this evening. Are there any comments in advance on our business agenda? I'm certainly going to entertain comments as we go through the agenda here this evening. And our agenda this evening is we have a committee appointment first off, and we have a candidate for the Committee for People with Disabilities. We interviewed him last week, very talented young man, and I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
And I'm not sure how to pronounce his last name again, but I move to appoint Paul Mangaitis
Yep.
as a full member of the Committee for People with Disabilities until June 30th, 2026, unless sooner revoked or a successor is appointed.
Okay, and a second.
Second.
Okay. Take a vote. Mr. Metters.
Aye.
Ms. Davis.
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Aye.
And the Vice Chair says aye as well. So welcome to the Finance Committee, folks online, both present this evening. Our agenda includes a consideration of our public safety departments, extremely important, our Department of Public Works, and then again, or a look at, I should say, the operating budget and annual town meeting vote for our water department. So that being said, I think we'll have Chief Anderson come forward first and present his public safety, his police department, and then obviously Justin Tavano and others. So, Chief Anderson, welcome.
Thank you very much, members of both boards, for your attention. Mike Anderson, I'm your Chief of Police. Fiscal 27. We'll start with the Animal Control Division. Diane Byers continues to do excellent work for us. I have a link to the electronic budget book, but I think my slides are self-explanatory. I don't think I'm going to go back and forth. It references where you should focus your attention, but really, this is just a snapshot of the trend of the calls for service that she gets every year. Not a big change in calls for service this year as compared to last, and that's just a snapshot of what her categories that we take track of. No disturbing trends. There was no troubling animal incidents or wildlife issues. I think the biggest decline would have been in the quarantines and the checks, because just a couple of years ago, we lost a resident who had a farm with a bunch of loose animals and a bunch of complaints. So that significantly dropped some of her calls for service. Again, her budget just reflects her increase for salary. Other than that, her budget is level funded. So we're happy to announce that. No sense clicking to the worksheet. If you look at her budget, it's level funded for this year. And I think the numbers are in the memo you got from Carrie.
Yep.
Any questions about animal control? Again, I couldn't be happier with Diane. She does a great job. Okay. Just a snapshot for our calls for service. Slightly higher, nothing alarming. I'll explain some of the calls for service and why it increased. It's just slightly from last year. But again, we're right about the level of services we had. And again, like I said, I'll explain some of these increases here with this next slide. This slide indicates some of the major calls for service that we have, that we track with the annual town reports. Anything underneath that line, from building and property checks south of that, are really officer initiated, and those are things that the officers do in their idle time, and then you can just see some of the parking tickets and the permits that we issued and the police records. Highlighted in yellow are some of the calls that led to the increase for calls for service. And if you pay attention to what they are, motor vehicle, motor vehicle, motor vehicle, that is a direct response from what we felt we heard loud and clear from the public at last year's town meeting, when they thought about lowering the town speed limit, and we made a compromise of buying those speed calming devices. We heard from the public loud and clear that traffic safety and speeds were a concern, and we really focused our efforts onto that. And we had an additional, during that period, we had probably 1 or 2 extra officers on our staff that were working as compared to the year before. So those are mostly, that's indicated in yellow. Does anybody have any questions about the calls for service that we had last year?
Mr. Chair.
Joanne.
Chief, number one, thank you and your officers for your service beyond the call of duty, because without you, we wouldn't be safe in our homes and in our town. Number two, there's one means of assurance that you give to your citizens that we don't often talk about, and that's your reassurance program. And I want to tell you how valuable that is for our older citizens, including me.
We're glad you're a part of it.
To check in every morning. It helps our families know that we are okay, that someone's checking on us every day. And I know it's extra trouble. It takes extra time and effort. And I want to thank you for all of us who partake of that.
Thank you. There's more to the story, and it's not just work that it's a burden on us at all. We share the responsibility with the emergency management, the fire department, and the Center for Active Living. And for folks at home, these last 2 weekends of storms are an example. We had a lot of residents that needed some assistance, not just with the reassurance program, but what we call the special assistance program, which might be, you might not have to call every day, our police department, and check in, but let's say you had a medical condition that required your house to have power because of an oxygen machine, or you could get around, but you couldn't make it to the mailbox or shovel. That special assistance program, which you can register for, and I encourage folks that aren't registered to look at our website and sign up. It's just an added safeguard for our community so that folks don't fall between the cracks.
That's amazing. That's wonderful. And we remember that you put your lives on the line every day to keep us safe, and we thank you for it.
It's our pleasure. It's a pleasure serving this community. We're lucky and blessed to work here.
Oh, and sorry, you're going to retire. We're going to miss you.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Meadows?
Go ahead.
Just one quick question, Chief. On the town bylaw violations, the 124, basically what violation or what bylaw violations is kind of typical?
Sure. Dean is not here yet, but I recall vividly a statement that Dean made several meetings ago about how much traffic and how much people and how much visitors we had over this past season. With that comes, when we say town bylaw violations, they're mostly quality of life type violations, the noise, the party calls, the alcohol in public calls, the fireworks calls. When we get that much of an increase in our town's population, that almost is an automatic rise. And I will say that we do track major crimes that we report to the FBI. And I am proud to say that most of our major crimes did not increase. They stayed at the same level or lower than they were last year. And the biggest location that we found where there was this most significant drop was, I think, really where people notice in Chatham, property crimes, any type of larcenies, house breaks, vandalisms. Again, you've heard me say this for a long time. Chatham's not immune from any type of major crime or criminal activity. We're just fortunate to have much smaller doses of it, so. Any other questions about the calls for service? Okay. This is just a snapshot of where we are as far as staffing right now. You'll see highlighted is 23. We were grateful that the town increased our staffing last fiscal year. We certainly appreciate that. Currently, we have 3 student officers in the police academy right now. They are expected to graduate the end of March. And upon successful completion of their field training officer program, we should expect them to hit the streets on their own on or about July 1st. That being said, we will not be full staff because we just had a retirement about a month ago, and that position is now open to be filled. We're recruiting for that, and if we're successful in filling that, that police academy starts on or about June 20th. So we will be short at least one this summer, and with my vacancy, probably one more in the middle of the summer. But we are trying to fill that position right now. But even that being said, hopefully with the 3 graduates, that should put us maybe 1 or 2 extra police officers on the road that does not have to be forced in for overtime or have their time off canceled because of unable to fill the overtime. So that, again, that is great for the security, and it's great for my morale. We are hiring right now for this season's community service officers. Sad to say that we're only getting so far 1 returning because a lot of our alumni have been picked up by other police departments. They've matured out of the program. It acted like a minor league system, and we're happy to say that a couple of them have been picked up as police officers or town employees for other towns.
Well, it's very generous of you, Chief.
Right? At the time they were available, we did not have any openings. We were full staff on paper, but,
So the memo did mention a potential hiring, it mentioned it. How strongly do you feel about that?
well, I'll take all the help I can get, but I certainly will defer to the judgment of the town manager and her needs and the town's needs, but I'll leave it up to her, and whatever happens, happens.
Okay. Barbara?
Thank you, Mr. Chairs. Chief, are you concerned at all that the 3 officers coming right out of student training are going to be starting on the 4th of July weekend?
There's 2 ways to look at it. You could, cross your fingers and close your eyes, or you could hit the ground running and jump right out of the frying pan and into the fire. So if it was up to me, I'd rather have them start fresh, motivated, trained, when it's busy, as opposed to starting now, where they might lose some of their edge or lose some of their experience or not get to do things over and over again to improve on them or learn from, any mistakes that they do make. So if you're asking me honestly, I'd rather have them start right in the middle of summer. Yeah, I'm very confident in the Massachusetts Criminal Justice Training Council's Police Academy, and I'm really comfortable with our FTO program. They'll be just fine. Okay? Here's our fleet, real quick. We just received one of our newest cruisers, just a note. That cruiser was ordered right after, the 2 new cruisers were ordered just after the last May's town meeting. So it takes that long to get a cruiser ordered, delivered, and built. That where it says number 2 scheduled for replacement, it's actually 1 because one of our newest cruisers arrived just last week. The highlighted Chevy Tahoe will be replaced, and that will replace the Lieutenant's 2019 unmarked Ford Explorer, and that'll be replaced with a 26 unmarked. And our vehicle budget looks fantastic. We're in good shape with the vehicle-wise. The reason why we ask for the vehicles, and we'll get to it later in the presentation, very simple. The 2-year turnaround that we have on our vehicles keeps the vehicles on the warranty. They don't go off the warranty, and it maximizes our trade-in value. Any questions? Okay. This is just a quick snapshot of what the operational budget looks like. We're trying to be fiscally responsible. I think it's 3.9% for contractual salaries. You take that away, all I'm looking for from the police department is less than 1% of an increase. And that only increases our budget by $2,500. And again, not to slide back and forth to the budget book, but those are the 3 line items. And that all it is based upon the consumer price index on anticipated increases on the maintenance equipment, the labor, uniforms. It's amazing, again, how much it costs to outfit a police officer, and again, to keep us operational with our daily operational supplies. And that could range from anything from copy paper to ammunition. We were very proud to announce that over the past year, we were able to secure roughly $54,000 in grants to supplement some of our capital purchases that we did last fiscal year. Any questions? Okay.
Chief, I got a quickie.
Sure.
Last year, we had quite a capital ask, and one of the things that you looked for, and we approved, the town approved the body-worn cameras and for both the officers and the vehicles. How did that play out? And just give us a little color there, if you would. Thanks.
Okay, so one of the reasons why we were so pro body-worn cameras is transparency and officer accountability. Prior to the body-worn cameras, it would be an average of maybe 3 or 4 citizen complaints against police officers regarding their conduct or, how they behaved or what they did or didn't do. I am very, very proud to say that the first year that we've had our body-worn cameras, we have had zero citizen complaints. We had a couple that came in to entertain a complaint, but when the body camera footage was shown to the complainant and, you say, hey, tell me tell me what you see here that I don't, the complainant usually withdraws. The other thing that works well for us is we also use it for training purposes. We see an officer doing good on a call, we see an officer responding well, we can download that, we can highlight it, we can use it as a training roll call. No, I'm not looking over their shoulders every night, watching all of their body cameras. If I did, I wouldn't have time to even exist. Trust is a good thing in a police department, and these body cameras really help with that. Cruiser cameras as well. You know, it highlights safe operations of the vehicles. It documents the crime scenes. We're lucky to have them, and we were very happy that when we purchased them last year, we secured a really, really sweet contract, nice 5-year deal, which, again, I'll mention in a little bit.
Super, thank you, Chief. That was very informative, thank you.
Chief, last year, did we implement the new ticketing system? Was that last year or before?
Was that the year before? This is the
Year before.
second year, yeah, second year. Very happy with it. It's very easy to use. No, but it's been great. It's yeah, 100% support that.
Great.
Okay, go ahead, yep.
Chief, real quick, I think you may have mentioned it. So when you trade these vehicles in, that's what you guys do, the town does, is they trade them in, they get 2 new ones. That doesn't go to some other.
The cruisers, once we trade them in, I'm not sure where they go. They're probably a taxi somewhere, but they, you know, maybe years ago, maybe 1 or 2 went to another department in
Right.
town. Yeah,
Well-
not anymore.
Okay.
Not anymore.
Great, thank you.
Yep. Okay, moving along. One of the things we're asking for is one of 2 capital items, and it's $160,000, and quite frankly, that's our office. That's where we spend most of our time. And again, we're looking for 2, like we have in the past, because the rotation program, we maximize the return, the turn-in value, and we keep them on the warranty. The reason why it's a little bit more expensive last year and this year, if you go back to the slide earlier, some of our cruisers are 2020 or 2021s that we're turning in, and they're getting replaced with a 26 or maybe even a 27. The interior equipment, as you see here, the cage, the computer, the consoles, the body styles change 1 inch, 2 inches, 3 inches, 4 inches, and they don't fit. So this will be the second year in a row that we've had to upfit with some new interior equipment. Minimal cost increase, but again, we don't save any money because we can't recycle some of our old equipment. Any questions with this? Okay.
I just had a comment. It's because I'm backing up to a few slides ago where you said that you've ordered these in May? Or the other ones?
The vehicles that we're receiving last week and next week, we ordered them the day after the town meeting last year.
It's amazing it takes that long to get a vehicle.
Yep, yep.
Wow.
And then if you wanted a certain type of engine, if you wanted you wanted a Chevy, you wanted something else, it's Ford is not immune. It's the same everywhere. It's, those municipal vehicles are, it's a wait.
That's crazy.
Similar to ambulances, same deal.
And your fire trucks.
Yep, yep.
Any questions? Okay. Okay, this is the second capital request, and again, 203,000 looks like a big number, and I apologize for the sticker shock. I just want to introduce you to something. Since 2022, since I did my first budget, I feel we've made some significant improvements in officer safety with some of the equipment we've been allowed to purchase. And they, like we mentioned the body cameras, the cruiser cameras. We replaced our tasers. Our tasers were probably 8 or 9 years old. The time that we kicked that can down the road without having to spend, our time ran out, so we had to replace them. That was done this year, so they're carrying the new tasers. Last year, you guys approved, and I appreciate it, the replacement of our sidearms. We'll all have next-generation sidearms with the sight packages and the light packages. And again, if I don't have to revisit it, but we told you of all the benefits and the safety and the accountability for those. Let me introduce you to the Motorola APX 6000 portable radio. Now I'm not on the front lines anymore. I don't push a cruiser around. I push a desk around. But the only two really tools that I wear on my belt are my sidearm and my radio. This portable radio is, in my opinion, the most important tool that the officers have on their tool belt. We don't communicate with each other through cell phones. We talk on the radio. If you have a scanner, you hear us. If this is how we talk on the radio. Coincidentally, not a part of my program today, but this morning, to support my request, I received an email from the Massachusetts Chiefs of Police. This email is dated February 3rd and highlighted in orange. It says, there are several models of Motorola radios currently in use on the statewide blah, blah, blah that are out of support. Highlighted is the radio that we carry, okay? So I want to introduce you to a term called end of life. So as of October 15th, 2025, last year, all variants of this radio are going to be considered what they call legacy, which means limited accessories and parts, which means they don't repair or they don't replace these with these radios anymore. They only repair them with leftover parts from other radios. So their typical support is usually 7 to 10 years. And we started these in 2016, so we are at the end of life. So why do we buy them all now? Why do we need these all now? There's a couple of things to think about. We're very lucky to have the situation that we have in, and I think we need to maximize it. I'm going to try to highlight it. So last year, we were very, very lucky to secure an excellent contract with Motorola for the cruisers and the body cameras. This is a Motorola product. So because of our successful contract with the cameras, we've been offered a substantial discount, almost 25% per unit, if we purchase them now in bulk. What that also does, next fiscal year, as part of the body camera contract. So look at it this way. You wear your body camera here. I don't, but the officers who wear their radios, sometimes they wear a shoulder mic or a portable microphone, okay? So you've got all this going on. Next year, there is a component that we would qualify to get, again, hopefully at a pretty decent price. It's a piece of equipment that, instead of replacing our current body cameras with a newer, similar model, we'll have the ability to get a body camera which does the work for both the portable radio, microphone, and the camera. And some of the pretty slick things about this new system that we would be eligible to get if we were to purchase the radios is that new body camera style has AI technology. Now listen to this. Some of the features would be, for example, if we go to somebody's house, so we stop somebody's vehicle and there's a language barrier, we can program the speaker in that camera to translate what we're saying and what they're saying. It's pretty slick. But again, we can't have that unless we get these N70 radios, which these new components are compatible to. What would happen now if we broke a radio? We would be at the mercy of a third party or a separate vendor to try to scavenge radio parts from other APX 6000 radios. The cost of the radios is $180,000 on its own. Again, it's a sweet deal. I'm sure you've read the report. It's about a 25% savings per unit. And that would come with the radio that you see, the attached microphone holder, and a spare battery and a charger. Now, end of life. Also, in my police station, we have, when we talk on the radio, all of our radio communications, the DPW radio communications, the fire department, the harbor master, we have the ability to scan that, and we have the ability to record and preserve that, because we're required to. We lost the ability to have our call recording system replaced. It was brand new in 2011. It is now obsolete. The company that sold us the recording device has been sold, has been bought, has been sold, has been bought, has been sold. And we were lucky enough to get somebody, some old timer a legacy employee who has made a commitment to us that we haven't had to use yet, that if our system breaks, he could keep it on life support, but we can't repair it. We can't repair it. So what we looked at is what's called the Commutel multi-channel radio recording system. Again, we need it. How do we use it? We have to preserve it for evidence. If somebody calls on the radio and we don't quite copy what they say, we can record it and play it back and say, hey, what did they say? Again, the department's current recording system is well past its end of life. Like I said, the company no longer, the original company no longer exists. We've been quoted, I think it was $22,000 for that, for a combined total of $203,000. And I would be remiss if I didn't stop and insert this, because I don't want to forget this. There are a bunch of other things that we require for day-to-day operations that are covered by other budgets, like the town IT budget, and I can't thank the town IT budget for taking some of these things in for me. Software licenses, software upgrades. The town IT budget just purchased 6 brand-new cruiser laptops. Thankfully not out of my budget, luckily out of his budget. He had plenty of money. So I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge that and thank them and thank you for supporting the IT. And there was one more thing, I forget whose budget it falls into, but somebody's asking for the carpet at dispatch to be replaced. Again, 2011 is when we installed it, our dispatch carpet. It's kind of like our living room of our police station. It's always 24/7, 365, there's always somebody in there. And that carpet has also received its end of life. And that thankfully has been put in somebody else's budget. I think it's Terry Whalen's budget, and when you see it, think of me, and I'd appreciate it. But again, I'm not really a tech guy. I'm just saying that it's the most important tool that we carry, and unfortunately, we've kicked this can down the road as long as we can, and I think the right circumstances and the right time is to purchase this now for the savings we get now, and the availability for future improvements is probably as soon as next fiscal year. And I think that's it.
Chief, what is the lifespan of the radios, the new radios? Is it 10 years?
7 to 10.
Okay, all right. Yeah.
Chief, I might have misunderstood, but if you get the radios, do you have to do something with the cameras?
No, we
we
don't
can
have to
use
do
the
anything with the
cameras we have
cameras.
now?
What it does is, if that item we were able to purchase next year with our camera upgrade, we couldn't because it's not compatible with this currently.
Thank you.
If we get that, it would be.
Thanks, yep, understood.
Joanne, you had a question?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Before we leave the capital program, did you say you had received your new weapons that we ordered?
They're ordered, some have come in. We haven't started any type of training with them because there's a significant amount of ammunition that you have to put through that weapon, because I don't want to sound too technical here, but you're going from iron sights to an optic, and
Well-
you really have to learn how to.
That was my question. I began to think of that when we were talking about it. And
Yep.
how is the flashlight and the gun trigger how do you distinguish between those, and how do you learn to use those on the same weapon?
Training, repetition.
How does it work?
How does it work? Real simple. The only thing that is near the trigger guard is the trigger and the trigger guard, where you should never have your finger unless you're intending
Yeah.
to pull the trigger. The light is operated off outside of the trigger, either with an index finger or an opposite hand finger.
So there's no making a mistake of when you want the trigger, you're getting the light.
I don't want to say there's no guarantee, but the training, that's why we train so much on it. If a guy like me, who's not a gun guy, can figure it out, it's not that hard. It comes with muscle memory, and that's why you train so much. And it's designed for safety.
Okay,
And
thank you.
again, we would never use the weapons-mounted flashlight as like a flashlight to check a building. I mean, we have flashlights, but this is just a light mounted on your optics because, unfortunately, almost half of our duties are in low light or no light conditions.
Yeah.
And it's an incredible advantage for the officer, and it just increases safety for the public and more accountability for me.
Okay, thank you.
Okay?
Do you have a question, Stuart?
Yeah, I had a just question on the radios. That's kind of fascinating that they'll translate for you now. And do you program what languages it'll do, or is it just do?
They're going to sell me a product and they're going to demo it and they're going to hopefully wow all of us. But that is one of the features. And part of the other features, it has like like the body cameras now, if we jump out of the cruises at Lighthouse Beach, even on a calm day, the wind's blowing 20 miles an hour and you get that, it eliminates that. It's noise canceling, noise buffering. It's a pretty slick little piece of equipment.
Yeah, sounds it. And Motorola, are they the only folks that offer that? Do you know?
They don't. There's a couple of similar makes and models, but I'm not sure about the interoperability
Right.
with it. And I'd much rather stick with a name and a company that we know and they're on the state bid and
Sure.
it should be easy.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
Chief, how long does it take to order and receive and then get it all installed? I mean, like,
These?
Yeah.
The radios, I'm sure, the last time I talked to our rep, if we get the green light at town meeting, weeks.
any training to them at all because they have different components, or?
Just a little bit of in-house training when the rep gets here. I can't see anything more than, maybe less than 4 hours.
Cool, thanks.
Okay. If there are no more questions from either board, thank you, Chief. Thank you and your department for all the work you do for the town.
Any other questions? Great, appreciate it. Yes?
Yes,
Yeah,
Andy.
briefly, Chief, mostly because every now and again you hear this inquiry. Have the community service officers been successful? And, do they input to your activity report that you showed us?
I'll ask you. I'll ask the board.
No, yeah.
I couldn't be happy with the program, and I know some of our neighboring police departments, I hope they're not watching, but I know they try to copy, like we do. If we see something that's like, wow, that works really good, we'll change the letterhead and make it ours. I know that, my staff does a great job of training them, supervising them. And again, you'd figure, hopefully not in a community like ours where you get civilian complaints. They're professional, they're courteous, they're helpful. And again, we've been fortunate that the ones that we have come back, we welcome them back and, yeah.
Now, often, Chief, it's mostly been somebody has spotted a large vehicle or even a small vehicle parked halfway out into Main Street from the parking space, and what are those CSOs doing?
Yep.
Now, how come there isn't a ticket on that?
Yeah, and again, we get that all the time. Where's a cop when you need one? Where's a cop when you
course.
need one? All the time.
I think I've heard that before.
Yeah. Last year, I think it was the first year, maybe the second, since we had a complement of 5, we were able to designate one in a vehicle to go to satellite locations to hopefully take the burden off of some of the road police officers, and that was very helpful. We've had some areas in town where we've had some concerned citizens, and we heard less from them.
Good. I've liked the idea right from the get-go, and it's glad to hear that it's been successful.
Awesome, thank you.
Corey?
No, as far as the CSOs, I'm a big supporter of them. I see them every day downtown in the summertime, beyond the tickets, walking up and down, engaging with citizens, engaging with shop owners, engaging with everyone. They really become a fabric of downtown, and I know they expand their services a little bit beyond the downtown area, but they are fully engaged, very successful. And to Joanne's comment about, like, officers starting on July 4th, a couple of years ago, there was a little bit of a scuffle that went out over by, like, say, like the Carmines area. The CSOs were one of the first ones to respond to it, running full throttle on foot to get to the incident. Very, very successful, very, very supportive of the program. So I think it's been beyond our expectations with success. So big supporter of it.
Thank you.
Thank you again, Chief. This is your last formal budget presentation, but we're going to see more of you before
Okay.
you depart. Thank you
Appreciate
again.
your support.
Thank you.
I had one last question.
Yes.
Mike, sorry, on the CSOs, I too think it's a great program, especially for a seasonal community like
Awesome,
ours. I
thank
mean, how you fleet up people for the summer crowds. Are you going to, or are they expanding to beaches and most notably town landings, because they were always a distraction of mine?
I think they, on occasion, have visited, like, Schoolhouse Pond is one of their locations, Bridge Street is one of their locations. They kind of stay away from the fish pier because there's a separate crew down there, but I know they did, like, the area around the fish pier, Shore Road. I know they visited Cow Yard, and maybe some of those, but the answer is yes.
Do they have means of driving? I mean, can they drive somewhere to a town landing if they need, or
We give them an unmarked vehicle.
you give them an unmarked
Yep,
for this?
we teach them how to drive one of the unmarks. It's got the radios, they only turn the lights on when it's an emergency, but,
And they go to Barn Hill and
oh, yeah.
Riders Cove.
Oh, yeah, and
two of the-
it really, really takes a lot of burden off of the regular route police officers to
Yeah, I
allows
bet.
them to do other things, and it's been great.
Great, thank you.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
thank you. Chief Devano. Welcome.
Good afternoon. All right, good afternoon, everybody, members of the Finance Committee and Select Board, and anybody from public viewing at home and in person. Justin Tavano, the Fire Chief. Just want to start off with saying a few words about the department and about the town before we get into my slides. The women and men of the department worked extremely hard once again this past year in 2025, striving to set the standard for public safety excellence across the county. Their devotion to the town of Chatham and dedication to public service is highlighted by their training and their teamwork and their compassion for the community that we serve. I'm extremely proud and honored to work alongside true professionals. As always, I remain grateful to all of you on the Select Board, on the Finance Committee, Town Manager, the Finance Director, and our taxpayers for providing the necessary funding, allowing our first responders to perform their duties safely, efficiently, and effectively. And I'm also appreciative of the profound support and collaboration we share with our colleagues throughout the various town departments. Thank you. So we will jump right in. We'll look at some data first. Cut it down to just kind of a 5-year look back at some of our incident metrics. So this first slide is just showing us incident data from calendar year 2021 to 2025. The blue columns show total incidents, where the orange columns show ambulance transports. And typically we see those correlate with each other pretty well. When one goes up, typically the other one goes up somewhat proportionally. We had a little bit of a dip in total calls this year, along with ambulance transports, primarily due to a drop in calls during the shoulder season months, which we'll get into in a few slides. What was interesting to me, and I don't have an answer as to why, was the drop in ambulance transports didn't directly correlate proportionally with the drop in total calls for service. We had about a 200 call drop in ambulance transports between 2024 and 2025, with just a little over 100 drop in total call volume. This next one just compares 2024 to 2025. The blue column, and this is by month. So January is on your far left and December is on the far right. The blue column, the blue bar, is showing you 2024 total incidents per month, and the orange is showing 2025. And you can see July is about a mirror image of each other. That's the two tallest bars on the graph there. And if we look at June, just to the left of July, right in the middle, you can see that the orange column had a pretty decent drop below the blue. So we dropped off in 2025 in June, and then again in September, October, and November. So our change in call volume between 2024 and 2025 was mostly due to a drop in call volume in June, and then in the late summer and early fall months. This looks at five-year look back at our ambulance transports, going back to 2021. You can see that 2021 was still a little bit lower. We're still kind of recovering from the COVID experience. 22, 23, 24, we're all pretty leveled out. We saw a pretty good climb, and then 2025 again. This past year, things kind of took a weird dip. This is looking at ambulance revenue over the past 5 fiscal years rather than calendar years, and you can see that there was a pretty steady climb from 21 through 24, and then starting to level off in 25. But ambulance revenue, without any change in our rates, has been a pretty good source of revenue for the town. This pie chart's just looking at 2025. This breaks our incident types down into what we report to the federal government, to the U.S. Fire Administration. The largest piece of pie there is in the gray. That's our rescue and EMS medical responses. And that's typically where it about falls, is somewhere between 63-66% of our total call volume. So no real outliers in this. The only thing that really dropped somewhat significantly is our what we call service calls. And those dropped by about 100 this past year, with the most notable drops being in calls for residents burning without permits, along with assisting residents with troubleshooting smoke and carbon monoxide detectors. We had a few residents in town that we had to crack down significantly on that were our kind of frequent calls that were burning without permits. So the crackdown on that definitely dropped that number of calls for service. And our fire prevention office did quite a bit of work upgrading, helping residents the year prior with upgrading their smoke and CO alarms. So it made sense that those calls went down as well. This is just looking at our personnel. Nothing's changed from the prior year. Our 2 administrative personnel are myself and the deputy chief. We have day positions, which is an emergency medical services captain and a fire inspector. They're both cross-trained as firefighters, fire inspectors in EMT, and the EMS captain's a paramedic. We have 4 shifts with 7 personnel on each shift. Each shift has a captain, a lieutenant, and 5 firefighters. So in total, we have 4 captains, 1 for each shift. Out of those 4 captains, 3 are paramedics, 1's an EMT. Each shift has a lieutenant, with 1 being a paramedic and 3 being EMTs. And then each shift has 5 firefighters, so 20 at the firefighter rank, with 13 paramedics and 7 EMTs. And then finally, we have a part-time administrative assistant. Quick look at our fleet. Nothing has changed significantly in the past year, except for we took delivery of a new ambulance recently. So we still have 2 pumpers, 2 fire engines, 1 mini pumper, which has all the capabilities of a full-size pumper truck, but a little bit smaller footprint, can get into some tighter areas. We have the Quint, which is our ladder truck, which is dual purpose of has the capacity of a fire pumper, but also a ladder truck. Our high water vehicle, that's the Army truck we've seen around, which we utilize to help evacuate people from flood-prone areas. We have 4 administrative or staff vehicles. That's for myself, the deputy chief, the fire inspector, and then 1 additional for staff. We have a service vehicle, which is our pickup truck. We have a boat, which is trailered out of the fire station. And then we have our all-terrain utility vehicle, our UTV.
Chief, how much use does the Quint get?
You know, we don't have a lot of fires, as we're all well aware, thankfully. But it is, especially with our staffing now that we've moved dispatch to the county sheriffs, we're now able, with full staffing on each shift, to be able to fully staff an engine and the Quint. So for any report of a possible fire, any report of a confirmed fire, both those trucks are able to move out the door right away, whereas prior to this past year, we were only able to staff just 1. So the recalled personnel, people coming in from home, would be required to go to the station, get the ladder truck, and get it to the scene. So it's moving a lot more on calls, which is great.
What vehicle do you house in South Chatham?
We move it around a little bit. Typically, it's the mini pumper, but at certain points of the year, we shift that around a little bit, and we bring that back up to headquarters. We have to get creative in the near future here, because the high water vehicle is currently stored over at the wastewater facility. We need to move it out of there, because they're taking delivery of the grinder pumps and need that space there. So we're playing around with things a little bit between the high water vehicle and the mini pumper as to which is going to be in South Chatham and which is going to be at headquarters, but they can't both fit at headquarters.
Thank you.
We're also working with Harbor Master Jason Holm. We had moved our forestry truck towards the end of Stewart's time over to the Harbor Master Division. We still have our forestry skid off that truck. It's a pump with hose and a reel, which we're exploring the opportunity to put it into the back of the high water vehicle to increase that truck's capabilities a little bit.
Chief, if I may, you probably get tired of hearing me ask this, but how are we doing for, fire burden, particularly in the South Chatham forest?
Okay, right now. They did some work around the Goose Pond area not too long ago. The county just received a grant recently and is going to be starting to update the county wildfire protection plan. So we'll be participating in that kind of study and looking at the areas that need to be addressed. And then first will come the study, finding those areas, and then doing some work to help mitigate some risk.
Okay, it seems like every time I walk into the woods, there's a ton of dead pine, lots of easily ignited material lying around. And the pile may have been reduced, but I'm never sure whether it was decay or it was removed.
Yeah, we tend to defer some of that assessment to the wildfire experts.
Sure.
With DCR, Department of Conservation and Recreation. And they kind of lead the charge on telling us, we sometimes walk in there and we say, this is all a major fire hazard. And they say, no, that's actually good. It's in decay. It's not a huge fuel source. So sometimes it's not always what meets the eye.
Yeah, are DCR grants or personnel available to take away some of that stuff? Or?
Yeah, when that time comes, DCR personnel will help. They tend to rely on some AmeriCorps volunteers and some other volunteer organizations to help out with that as well.
Thank you.
Just to note, it doesn't really have a whole lot to do with us, but U.S. Fish and Wildlife does have a permit for the winter and spring to do some significant controlled burning out on Monomoy. So they're looking at doing about 90 acres out there. They were supposed to start 2 weeks ago, but with the cold weather and snow, pushed back.
Barbara?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Chief, have you noticed any decent amount of help from homeowners and citizenry in digging out the fire hydrants from the snow?
I tend to try to keep an eye on that as I'm driving around town or driving into work, and have noticed some areas where they've been shoveled out. But obviously with a little bit of an older community, it is tricky. Had some conversations with Chuck Wood, from the Viola, about getting those hydrants opened up. So we started working a little bit of a plan to get better access to them. But if you drive around, you will notice that some have paths cleared to the hydrants. But it's with the snowstorm that we got a couple weeks ago, it's tricky. But we adapt our plans, our response plans. We're putting more equipment on it. When we know that there's been a significant amount of snow, we increase our staffing level, because we know that those are going to be challenges that we face.
Mr. Wayne?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Chief. In the summertime, when we are so full of tourists and many of our places of entertainment seem to be people falling out the doors, what is your program of controlling the places of entertainment to where they only have the certain number that they're allowed to have, and that there aren't more revelers than should be in case of fire?
Yeah, so it's a little bit of a three-pronged attack. So the first and foremost, the responsibility falls on the establishment. Excuse me, every establishment that has capacity of 100 or more is required to have a crowd manager, a certified crowd manager through the state for every 100 people that they have within their capacity. And that part of that person's responsibility is making sure that they're staying within their capacity and counting heads on the way in. So the ultimate liability and responsibility lies with the establishment themselves. We do often get calls in the summertime to go to establishments where folks believe that they're overcrowded.
Yeah.
And you actually wouldn't believe how many people you can fit into a place by fire code. It's 7 square feet per person once you remove tables and chairs for an establishment, which isn't a lot of space when you think about the footprint that, basically a just over a 3-foot by 2-foot area takes up. So a lot of times we show up and people believe that somewhere's overcrowded. Sometimes it's somebody from our duty crew that's on duty, the fire inspector or myself or the deputy chief. We have had to go out in the past and do some head counts and get general approximations as to how many people in there. In my time as chief, we haven't had any time that we've been called out to check an establishment where they've actually been over capacity.
Okay, thank you.
We always run into, I talk with my colleagues in other towns on these issues all the time as well. Harwich has had some significant issues in the past few years in the Harwich Port District with a couple establishments there. I know that they had a time last summer where they actually had to empty one of the facilities out, make everybody get back in line, and then count heads to let everybody back in. And we always wrestle with the safety aspect of doing something like that, especially when it's on Main Street. So if we look at an establishment that has a capacity of, say, 250 people, if we dump that building and we put 250 people outside all at Main Street at the same time, was, the bite worth the chew to get, otherwise, if we were to stay and keep an eye on it and they had a good control of the crowd that's in there, we tend to just kind of let them manage it. To try to get everybody emptied out and count heads on their way back in is kind of a huge undertaking. Just a quick look at some of the grants that we're currently working on. This past year, we got a small car seat grant from the state. It wasn't actually a financial grant to us, but it was in the form of equipment that we allowed us to get 28 car seats free that we were able to work with Monomoy Community Services, the schools, to identify some people in the community that could benefit from having a free car seat. some leftover funding from the old Medi Center 5. Still funds some small grants each year. This past year, we got $2,745, which allowed us to purchase some CPR equipment. Much needed replacement on that. The Department of Fire Services, the Student Awareness of Fire Education and Senior Safety Grants gives us about $7,000 each year to assist with fire safety education for our schools and working with our Center for Active Living on providing safety education for our older population. And then the Assistance to Firefighters Grant through MEMA, we were actually awarded about a year and a half ago, but we just started that project this year. That awarded us about $55,000 to send one of our current EMT employees to paramedic school. So provides funding to backfill that person's position when they have to go to class, but they're scheduled to be on duty. And also to provide funding to that person when they're attending training to be compensated with overtime to attend the training. So that's working out really well. Currently, we have Callie Burnham, who's attending that program. She's about halfway through. Similar to Chief Anderson, I didn't pull up the budget book, the digital budget book, just because I know it can be a little hard on the eyes in the setting, but I know you all have access to that, and I just wanted to highlight really the only significant changes in the budget for the year. So this is looking at FY26, is the left-hand column where you'll see values, and then FY27 right to the right of it, and then the dollar variance and the percent change. So the two areas of our budget we look at are personnel expenses and our operating expenses. Personnel expenses always take up the most significant part of our operating budget at around 93%. In FY26, that was just over 4.7 million, and for FY27, that's going up to 4,941,000. So just under $240,000 change, which is about 5.1%. So all those changes are contractual. It's for cost of living adjustments, market adjustments, longevity payments, step increases, increased holiday pay, and things of that nature. For our operating expenses in FY26, it was just about $370,000, and in FY27, we've proposed $391,788 for a change of $22,239, or 6.02%. So in total, the percent increase of the overall budget from FY27 to FY26 is 5.15%. So this next slide just shows where those changes occur, which line items. Do you want me to stop?
I just have a question for you, Chief.
Yeah, go ahead.
Has to do with ambulance billing. How often do you test the upper limits of what the insurers will pay for reimbursement?
So Medicare and Medicaid are set federally, what those reimbursement rates are. It's something that Carrie and I have talked about, looking at those rates. It's been quite a while since we've changed our ambulance rates in town. We have significantly the lowest on the Cape. But we take in, out of all of our revenue, which, last fiscal year was around $900,000, about 90% of that is coming back from Medicare and Medicaid. So a huge portion of it just is what it is. So it doesn't really behoove us as a town that much to increase rates higher than what Medicare and Medicaid are gonna reimburse for that, because that's 90% of that revenue. The other 10% is coming from private insurance. So we are looking at doing some increases with the rates, so that for that remaining 10% that are being paid privately, we would get a little bit more of a return.
Okay, there were two things I was thinking of. Of course, Medicare and Medicaid periodically do change their rate structure, so they might do that without telling you.
They keep so we use a third-party billing company called Coastal Medical Billing.
Okay, all right.
And they keep us well informed of changes in rates.
The other question is, how much, am I correct in my understanding that we do not bill over and above what our reimbursement is from Medicare, Medicaid?
That's correct.
Okay, which I always thought was a pretty practical and useful and community-minded practice. You know, do you have a sense of how much revenue we forego as a result of that?
I don't offhand.
Okay.
I can certainly
I just,
do a little
I mean,
digging and get that info back to you.
Balanced billing is inevitably a surprise to everybody that happens to, and I'm glad we don't practice that with our ambulance billing service. But it, now and again, we ought to be reminded of just how much we're doing for our community by not going after that. It is quantifiable, I'm sure. Thank you, Chief.
Sure. All right. So for FY '27, our increases in the budget, operating budget on the left-hand side, first and foremost, as I've already addressed, some increases for personnel expenses, which is our salary and wages, and then related to the salary and wage contractual increases, that also drives our overtime rates up. So with that, there's a corresponding increase in the overtime budget, our training budget, our special teams budget, and our holiday pay. So that's the bulk of the increases in the operating budget for FY '27. We've also adjusted the ambulance billing by an increase of $3,000, and that's just to fund based on prior year actuals. We've kind of gone over a little bit on those in years past. The good thing about ambulance billing, as I mentioned in the past, is if we're paying more to the ambulance billing company, it means we're taking in more money. Because right now we pay 4% of so basically 4 cents on every dollar that they take in goes back to them. The biggest asks that I have this year, and these are based on what I believe are needs of our department, are the continuing education line item, requesting an additional $10,000, corresponding with that, an additional $6,000 for meeting and dues and travel. I asked for those to be increased, and there are offsets from that, which I'll go over in just a moment. Those increases are to fund each member of our department to go out of state for live fire training. Since 2019, with the closure of the Barnstable Fire Academy, our department has not been able to attend any live fire training with a group traveling with the shift that they work with to go all train together. It's piecemealed. The training, the live fire opportunities through the state are few and far between. They're at their burn buildings on their different fire academy campuses in Springfield and Stowe and Bridgewater. Building just got operational recently. The burn buildings, the big concrete burn buildings are better than nothing. We were fortunate when we used to have one in Barnstable County. It allowed somewhat of realism to our training by having our members be able to go in and feel the actual heat from a fire. But with those closures and the few opportunities that we have across the state, it's been quite some time since some of our members have been able to get into real fire training situations. We've had several members over the last 5 years or so travel out of state to Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire, and Connecticut, where they've gone to live fire training opportunities through private organizations, where they're actually able to, they have different environmental protection regulations in those states, and they've actually been able to burn homes down that are going to be demolished. It's a much more realistic environment. The folks that have gone to those training opportunities have come back with just an unbelievable experience. And I think for the money, it's well worth it for our people to go train in an environment like that. It's critical training. We've done a great job getting creative locally with working with contractors and the building department to identify houses in our community that are going to be demolished, where we can go in with smoke machines, fill them with smoke, but without really feeling that heat and having that intensity and creating that sense of urgency and anxiety. Our newer members are just, they're not getting the same level of training that we got 10 plus years ago. So the continuing education increase of 10,000, that goes towards the cost for the actual programs that are being run out of state. So tuition and fees, and then the 6,000 for meeting and dues and travel, because these folks are gone for typically 3 to 4 days. That's to provide each one of our shifts a stipend of $1,500 per shift to account for lodging and meals and mileage to travel to and from. Not only do I think it's a phenomenal training opportunity for these groups to go and take this type of training, but to be able to travel away for a weekend, it's also great team building and being able to work with each other in that type of environment. That's offset slightly by a $5,000 decrease on the right-hand side in our purchase of services account. We're able to absorb that decrease based on looking at prior year actual expenditures in our purchase of services, and because of replacement of some of our equipment, which have now come with are now under warranty, and we've been able to drop some service agreements. And then lastly, requesting a 10% or a $8,240 increase in our vehicles and equipment maintenance account to account for increased costs for parts, labor, and depreciating equipment. And that's also based on prior year actual expenditures.
Justin, can you just get back to talk about what the acronym is, the Cape and Islands, in the very bottom?
Oh,
The annual
yep.
assessment.
So yeah, and then the meeting dues and travel increase is also offset by our Cape and Islands EMS annual assessment. That's the CIE-MSS. In the past, we'll get to the slide in just a few moments, but the Cape and Islands EMS annual assessment held its own budget before. And that going forward, we're working right now through a strategic plan. The Cape Cod Healthcare is going to be picking up that funding. So in the past, that was a $6,500 budget, and that's going away. So that money is also being used to offset some of those increases that we've requested.
That answered my question.
So that's it on the fire side. I'll touch briefly on the emergency management operating budget. You'll notice, looking at the digital budget book, there's been a small decrease in that. Several years ago, we had a small stipend for a summer intern, which we haven't utilized in quite a number of years now. So that's dropped that budget a slight amount. And there's also a small COLA in there for the deputy director position, consistent with other town staff. And then there's a $500 increase to the emergency management operational supplies account line item. And that's taking, again, we had another separate account, which only had a budget rather for oil pollution control, which was only budgeted at $500. And rather than running that as its own separate budget, we've just moved that $500 into emergency management because that's where the funding typically gets used anyway. Our capital request for fire department and emergency management. The first three items are our traditional annual requests, our recurring requests. First is the firefighter protective clothing account capital article. That's $75,000. This funds our turnout gear, which, as I went over last year with the studies on PFAS, we're now required to have PFAS gear when we issue new sets of gear. And with that requirement, the cost of the gear has gone up quite a bit. We have a pretty comprehensive replacement plan on all our gear. Each one of our firefighters is assigned 2 full sets of turnout gear. And the way that the standards are, your first line set of equipment has to be, in order to be compliant with the standards, has to be less than 5 years old. And once it hits 5 years old, it can be moved to an alternate or backup set. So each firefighter has 2 sets of gear. We have all the dates and replacement plan built out on that. So that increase or that request is based on what needs to be replaced in the upcoming year. We also use that capital article to fund other forms of protective gear, such as our suits for our water rescue team, members of our dive team, our cold water immersion suits, some ballistic equipment, and basically all the other types of protective equipment that we need to do our job safely. Tracy?
Tracy?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Hi. What does a full turnout suit cost?
So right now, head to toe, so it's, I'll walk you through it head to toe. It's your helmet and then what we call a hood underneath it, your jacket, gloves, our pants with suspenders and boots, and then the helmet has a shield on it as well, is about that $7,000.
And does that doesn't include breathing apparatus? Does everybody have a?
Nope, that's just the turnout gear. Yep.
And you'll be refreshing it every year, I mean, as they rotate?
Correct.
They come
Yep.
superannuated, yeah, okay,
Yep.
thanks.
So the next item is our self-contained breathing apparatus, which we refer to as our SCBA. Again, this is an annual recurring request to continue replacement of our, there's two components to the breathing apparatus. One is the harness itself with the straps and regulator on it, and the other is the cylinder, which is what holds the air. So many of our cylinders are expiring. They can only be what is called in the industry as being hydro tested. It's how they test the integrity of the cylinder itself. They can only be hydro tested a certain number of times. So we have a majority of our cylinders that all are due for replacement. We started replacing some last year. We're working on replacing some this year with the funding that we've gotten through the capital requests, and we'll need to start replacing additional next year. For our radios, our traditional request of $10,000. We're not at the place where the police department's at yet with needing a full replacement.
I was going to ask, because you just heard the chief, how are we with our radios? We're not near, hopefully, end of life?
We're in a similar boat as far
Okay.
as what model we're utilizing. But there are, our radios are, they go through, they get maintained regularly, annually. We're in pretty good shape with their functionality. They've all got software upgrades recently. They're going to work on the new state system, which is going to be being implemented over the next couple of years. And that is an item that we have targeted for a future grant request. So prior to putting that on the capital improvement plan, the radios that we have currently were all funded through a federal grant. We're hopeful that as these start to get to their end of the life, we'll be successful in acquiring a federal grant for those.
Chief, if I might, the protective clothing and the CBAs is that part of the state bid? Do you go to a state bid list?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's.
Yep. We do have some minor customizations on our turnout gear that we've just kind of developed through the years as to what works well for our department.
Right.
But they result in incremental increases in the overall cost. It's really just kind of pocket layout and
Right.
where the clips are and stuff like that.
Thank you.
Stephen has a question.
Yep, Stephen, go ahead, please.
Thanks, Andy. Chief, I'm curious if a police radio is roughly $8,000, how far is $10,000 going to go? And is there a benefit to seeding more of that money now rather than in the future at some point in time?
Was that for the radios?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Sorry. It was a little difficult to hear you, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
No, I think we're okay right now. We do have a little bit of funding built up there. We've done some radio replacement recently as is. So I think we're in pretty good shape right now with that request.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
The next non-recurring item from our typical annual request is stretchers and stair chairs. Currently, all three of our stair chairs are at the end of their life. One of them has had some deficiencies, which is no longer supported by our contractors and vendors that we utilize, and they can't replace parts in, so we've had to put Band-Aids on them. So our stair chairs, just to technically not get too into it, but our stair chair is basically it's a wheelchair essentially. It's collapsible, and we utilize it nearly every call that we can't get the stretcher into the house easily with. So whether somebody's on the second floor or on the first floor, and there's a few steps to get down out of the house, typically the stair chair is how we're getting them to the front yard, where they then get transferred to the stretcher. So the stair chairs, the current replacement cost is about $6,000 each. Those all need to be done this year. And then we have one stretcher, which needs replacement this year. And then my initial request included doing all the stretchers and stair chairs this year, but Carrie's divided them into just doing one of the stretchers and all 3 stair chairs this year, and then doing the remaining 2 stretchers next fiscal year. So again, that's just something, I mean, the stretchers and stair chairs get used on every single call we go on. They get a lot of work. We put a lot of strain on them, and they're all at the end of their useful life.
Chief, the stretchers, as I recall, some years ago, I think you were talking about making sure you had a power loading system.
Yep.
For those.
So two power components to the stretcher. One is to the stretcher itself. They're battery operated, so that allows the stretcher, while it's on the ground, to go up and down. So that takes the strain out of our first responders from lifting the actual patient and stretcher up at the same time. And then we also have a power load system which is mounted to the ambulance itself, which allows us to dock the stretcher from while its wheels are still on the ground. And then the power load system actually lifts the legs up, so we're not actually lifting the patient into the truck at all. And then it slides the patient in. So takes a significant amount of strain off people's backs and hips. Hopefully improves quality of life for them at the end of their career. I think we're all, those of us that had to carry the old stretchers without any power system in them, we all feel the effects of it for sure.
Thank you.
And it's, of course, much safer for the patient as well. Reduces the likelihood of inadvertent tip overs. And then last on the capital request is our generator request. We continue to build that account up for emergency management. Couple projects ongoing, working with Terry and Sawyer on the town hall generator replacement. And we have a couple other projects in town, one being looking back at creating some redundancy at the fire station. Unfortunately, that project has fallen through the cracks year after year after year. I think Stuart can feel my pain a little bit there, as the two of us, back when he was on staff, worked to try to find an electrician to do that project. It's been quite difficult. But that project is still on the docket, and we'll need to look at replacement of our portable generator at some point as well. Separate account, which took effect last fiscal year for FY26, is our fire department dispatch services. This was to outsource our dispatch services to the county sheriff's department. For FY27, that annual assessment came in at $95,692. Fairly significant increase from what we paid last year, but under what their initial budget amount was going to be once they got their state offsets. For the value, as I mentioned earlier, that's allowed for one firefighter per shift to become operational. $100,000 is an absolute bargain. The professionalism that they bring, the redundancy, the backup that they have in their room, and freeing up our staff to go on emergency calls. It's been a game changer for us as a department this past year. So the biggest reason for the increases of that annual assessment is they are union employees up there. They did settle new contracts. They had to add, increase their staffing levels a little bit to account for taking us on and two of the other towns that they took on. And they're going through a significant software upgrade process right now with what they call their CAD system, their computer-aided dispatch system.
Chief, in the budget book, it was 123,000, 124,000, so that's a good, that's a great decrease
Yep.
from what their initial estimate was. How many other departments on the Cape are utilizing this service?
So now they are up to 15.
Oh, all of them? Oh,
well,
15 departments, okay.
15 departments, yep.
yeah. And it's been, this was an issue last year, it's been a huge success, is what I'm hearing you say.
It's been fantastic, yep.
Super, good decision.
One other note on that, I think what really reflects our capabilities as a department with this change is our mutual aid numbers. So our mutual aid, the times that we've had to call mutual aid in the past year has dropped significantly since before we were dispatching. So having that extra person available operationally has been huge. It hasn't just decreased the number of times we've had to call for help, but it's increased the number of times we've been able to provide it. So on both sides there, it's definitely reflective of our, of an enhancement of our operations. As mentioned prior, this is our Cape and Islands Emergency Medical Services Annual Assessment. And as I mentioned before, typically funded at $6,500. That's gone down to zero, and that budget will go away. So the cost, the way that agency has been funded in the past, every municipality pays an annual assessment to fund operations for that agency, and Cape Cod Healthcare is going to be picking up the cost of that going forward. And lastly, this prior to FY27, this was a $500 budget for oil pollution control. It was kind of a legacy budget that's been around for a while. We've just taken that $500 and rolled it into the emergency management budget.
Okay, any other questions?
I have a comment and a quick question. I just was pleased to see in your department goals, you're thinking about succession planning, not for yourself, obviously, because you're so young, but for others in your department. It's prescient, looking forward, that's smart. And then I just wanted a quick question on the Insurance Services Office rating review. Is that going to save the town and/or our residents any money going forward if you pull it off? And what is that about? Just briefly, thanks.
It has the potential to save some residents on their insurance rates. So right now, we're a Class 3 ISO rating. Our kind of early assessment, it's been quite a while since Chief Ambrisco was here, since we've looked at that ISO rating. So it's definitely due time to do that. And our early assessment looks like we'll at least be able to get it to a Class 2, which would be great. It won't be a universal decrease in insurance rates for every resident, but it should result in some savings for some residents.
Super, thank you. Thank you, Chief.
Any other questions for the fire chief? Stuart?
Sure. Thanks, Justin. That was real informative. The high water vehicle has a place in my head, and I know you folks use it quite a bit. Do you think, well, is it getting the financial support it needs from the town? My concern is that there's somewhat, well, a lot of your vehicles are unique, but this one is particularly unique, particularly needed, and is it the fair-haired stepchild, or are we actually supporting it as we?
No, we're getting it regularly maintained. Josh Ford's doing maintenance on it. Repairs as needed, but regular maintenance as well. We are definitely in need of a place to store it.
Yeah.
The fire station's full. We are completely at capacity. Even just this past weekend in the storm, we wanted to have the mini pumper up there, just because with the built-up snowbanks on different sides of the roads, it's easier to manipulate through some of those tight roads. And we didn't have a place to put that, and then we had a concern for flooding too. So the high water vehicle was outside. Fortunately, we ended up not getting snow, but that could have been a problem to have to continuously clean that off throughout the storm if we did get any significant snowfall. Right. So we're definitely looking for a place to put it. We've been fortunate enough that Rob and Tom have found a place for us over the years, but we're we're kind of maxed out.
Is, does the South Chatham, well, I know the South Chatham station is insufficient, but is that property a perspective for a building to, you know, the day you guys opened, the building was too small, in my opinion. It's missing a bay, and we're going to forever pay that price. So can South Chatham, that property be used to augment your needs?
I mean, right now, if that bay is full
Right.
at any given time with either the high water or the mini pumper. Are you referencing like renovating and?
Yeah, I'm thinking of
Like a
renovating, or
station too.
you know, it's a,
Yeah, I don't know if we want to get into the full staff Station 2 conversation right now. But my opinion on it prior to moving dispatch to the county was that we didn't have the staffing to support even having a Station 2.
right.
We're much closer now than we were then, where we could put 4 people at a headquarters station and 3 at a Station 2 without having to chase people around all the time or pick
Yep.
people up to augment staffing at one or the other. But I don't know if that would be the property
Right.
to look at in the future. I think there's some other property in that part of town that would be more suitable.
I mean, staffing aside, you know, the arguments that I heard some years ago, this predates you and maybe even Pete, I can't remember now, but those needs didn't evaporate. You know, your EMS time response for the South Chatham area is significant. And I didn't know if those discussions, you've had any thinking or discussions regarding a, you know, I mean, I hate to bring up spending more money, but those needs didn't go away.
We haven't started any of those conversations yet.
Yeah.
But, knowing that the dispatch services has been going well with the county, and our staffing is better now than it ever has been, I think it's probably a conversation worth having going forward.
So when you're speaking of that, not that I got a vote, but I'm somewhat undecided on the whole dispatch issue. You know, yes, it's a savings, but in my mind, we pay a price for those savings. And one of them is that when your crew is responding with an engine and a rescue, my sense is there's times during the day that the building's not occupied. What happens then?
Mostly on the weekends, because during the day, at any given time, either myself or the deputy, fire inspector, Captain Lopriori, typically one of us is there.
Right.
At least from 7 to 5, 7 to 6. There are times where occasionally it is unstaffed. We have signage at the front door, so we've changed some of the infrastructure with how the doors lock and people get rung in. But there's a phone right in the front vestibule, very clear signage that if you're showing up with an emergency, you just pick up that phone and it automatically dials to the dispatcher of the county. They don't have to even dial 911. They just pick up the handset and it rings directly to them. So that's kind of how we manage it now. If that engine's still in town, it hasn't happened to date that they've had to respond back to the station for anybody. I think we've gotten some good messaging out to people that change was occurring, and really just continue to try to push the message, don't show up at the fire station with an emergency, call 911 for help. And I think we've definitely seen a decrease in the number of people showing up at the station requiring medical attention or coming in with some sort of emergency. They still do it. It hasn't happened when the station's been empty, though.
Yeah, I mean, staffing is always a challenge in all of these departments. Yours, no exemption there. We staff police and fire and our other departments for not so much a community of 6,000 people. We staff it for 30,000 people because that's the height of our season. And then we augment that with overtime costs and what have you. But one of my concerns is that not only in the FD, but in other departments, is that we get further and further and further afield from where we are drawing our employees. And if we're going to be, when you call people back, it's essential that these people that are getting called back live in a recall radius as opposed to somewhere beyond those limits. And I certainly hope we're looking at that because it's a critical component of how you folks do business. And if we're drawing people from off Cape, they might as well not exist in my book unless they're on duty.
We've been much more fortunate in the last couple of years, and we've really ramped up our recruitment efforts with trying to identify young local people with roots in this
Yeah.
part of the Cape, through our program at Cape Cod Tech, with our internship program with Monomoy High School. We've identified some really good candidates. We have already a few people lined up to do summer internships with us this summer.
Good.
Or have good local ties. So the thought with our recruitment is to really just try to get people, whether they can, if they grew up here, maybe they can have an accessory dwelling at their folks' house, or they can have a room at least for a little bit for a few years to save some money, to then be able to afford to live here. But that's really where we're focusing a lot of efforts right now with recruitment. We're starting to develop, I think, a little bit of a farm system, with the hopes that we can also try to reinvigorate a little bit of call department that we had of years ago.
Yeah. And the call department kind of on paper only at this point.
Right now, yeah, we have that small line item of $10,000 for it, but our hopes is this year to start utilizing some of that funding to actually start to build a call department back a little bit.
Yeah,
And to be fully transparent, mostly for a recruitment standpoint.
Sure.
And a supplemental staff standpoint.
Sure. And as we've talked about in other departments and on the board here is paying them appropriately. If it's going to be a second job for somebody, it's got to pay.
Yep.
And we haven't done that here.
It's still difficult to expect people to be able to drop
Yep.
their job in the middle of the day if they're working in a trade. If they're a business owner, it might be a little bit easier because it's their own job. But to tell their boss, "Hey, I got to run. I'll be back in 3 hours." They're going to be out of a job pretty quick. But that's why I said not necessarily from a supplemental staffing standpoint we're looking at the call department, but more of a recruit department than a call department. So to offer them some baseline training, get them familiar with the folks that we work with the town, developed that interest that we need. So we're bringing people in the door that want to get their start here and then stay here.
Right.
So I'm hopeful. I think the situation's looking, I think, a lot better than it did 4 or 5 years ago.
And how's the, here again, just from your graphs, which were helpful, it's really no surprise, but your calls go up in the summer.
Yep.
For 4 months, 5 months, whatever it is. Even though we try to staff for those levels, because that's what we have to do, because we live in a seasonal community. Your recall ability, are we still getting people on recall? I mean,
We are. It's actually been better than it has been in probably a decade, with people coming back. We do have our folks that don't live locally.
Yep.
And obviously they can't come back for recall. But the ones that do are really showing up. When I mention, our succession planning, and my goals and objectives, it's not just to replace administration, captains and lieutenants, it's to replace those people that live locally too.
yeah,
So that's really where we're trying to drive that focus is to get people that have ties here, that can live locally. We've assisted one of our firefighters who's been on with us for a few years now. She had been living in Falmouth. She was able to relocate to Orleans earlier this year, thankfully. And now she's been able to relocate actually into Chatham. And since being able to do that, she's been coming back for callback quite a bit. 2 of our most recent hires, both living in Harwich, are coming back in all the time. So we're in a pretty good shape as far as newer members of the department. We're not relying on kind of the same old faces to
Right.
fulfill those requests. We do have some younger, fresh blood that's coming in, and they've been able to secure some housing locally, which is great.
Do you see, lastly, then I'll keep quiet, but do you, aside from having no room, which is going to be a problem that we're just going to need to address, lost my train of thought, but you don't have enough room. And the fourth ambulance, I know you don't have a fourth ambulance, but is that something that is down the road thinking that we're going to need? I just think of both Mike and yourself and replacing these vehicles, trying to keep them maintained that are just old, it's expensive, and you run them constantly. So what's your thought on that?
I don't know that our call volume is at a point right now that we would necessarily need to have a fourth ambulance. That would require hiring a couple more people per shift in order to staff it.
Yep.
Well, the bigger concern is just how long it takes to get them replaced. So,
And so all three, let's say the third ambulance is your oldest ambulance with the most mileage, maybe, we have to bite the bullet and ensure that those vehicles are, although older, are a newer, older version because
yep.
of.
So what we've done is basically every even fiscal year, I've been requesting an ambulance as a capital replacement article. In reality, it's taking 2.5 years to build an ambulance. So
Crazy.
whereas like our old replacement policy or program, we were aging an ambulance out at 6 years. Now it's more like 8.5. But it's the same everywhere.
Yeah.
We are still fortunate that when we're trading ambulances in, they're around 120, 130,000 miles. Some of our neighboring departments, they're getting upwards of 200,000 by the time they're getting them traded in.
And what's the time period for replacing an engine?
Right now, it's a 4-year build from time of order.
Crazy numbers.
Yep.
All
So
right.
I think I've mentioned, I know Carrie's aware and Jill's aware. And if you do look at the 5-year capital plan, I do have a placeholder in an advanced year for looking at replacing one of the engines.
Yep.
The 2 engines we have right now were built at the same time. They're both 2017s. So if we're looking at a 4-year build, if we fund it 4 years from now, it'll be 15 years old by the time we get the new one. So kind of the industry standard is your frontline piece of apparatus should be less than 15 years old. At 15 years old, it should be moved into a backup or alternate role. So I think it was FY31 that I put the placeholder in there for a new engine.
All righty, thank you.
And then, of course, it's impossible to predict what the cost will be.
Yeah. Yeah, there is no predicting, really. It's I've seen those numbers. They're kind of crazy. Thank you.
All right, if there are no more questions for the chief, I'm going to thank you for your presentation and for the service that you and your department
Thank you
give
all.
to the town, and I think it's a fair statement that we have first-class public service department between police and fire. I think
you very
it's
much.
second to no one in the state.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So the next item on the agenda is the FY 2027 Operating and Capital Budgets Review for the Department of Public Works, Mr. Faley. Carrie, do you have anything to say by way of introduction, or do we go directly to Rob?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the proposed public work budget is presented at $8.3 million for FY 2027, an increase of almost $600,000, or 7.73% over the current fiscal year. And then we also have, Rob Faley is also going to be going over the water department budget, which for 2027 is presented at $5.7 million, an increase of $255,000 over FY 2026. And Director of Public Works, Rob Faley, will do his presentation, go over everything for you.
Good afternoon, Select Board and Finance Committee. Rob Faley, Director of Public Works. Go over the FY 27 DPW budget first. So the Department of Public Works includes 11 divisions, but for the purpose of this presentation, it's only 10 because the water division is handled separately. So here's a list of our current departments. Includes transfer station, parks and grounds, sewer, municipal buildings or facilities, the fuel depot, highways, streetlights, snow and ice, cemetery, and included under this is projects administration. Typically, you would have Terry Whalen here, but it's rolled into the DPW budget, and he has just a few small line items, and I would just carry it in my budget for this presentation. So here's staffing levels. We were fortunate enough to have those 2 additional Parks and Grounds staff added last year to help out with cemetery maintenance. Last summer was the first summer we maintained all the cemeteries in-house. I've heard many positive things, and kudos goes out to that department. I've also had a new position, which is a DPW associate position. She started yesterday. That was took a half-time position and some overtime for seasonal employees, and we combined those to create a new position. So looks like coming this later this month, the DPW will be fully staffed. It'll be the first time in my 3 years that we've been fully staffed, so that's pretty exciting news. Here's just a list of some of our equipment that we have. Again, I know we've had one of the dump trucks will be replaced soon. A new 1-ton pickup is on order. To replace that, we have ordered the trash truck. We ordered that last June. We haven't received delivery of it yet, but we expect that any week now. Similar to other departments, you've heard how long it takes to build some of these vehicles. Yeah, everything else is pretty status quo.
Where's the vacuum truck? Is that in that list?
That is listed on sewer, the Vector truck, quantity 1. And please stop me anytime during this for questions. So here's the DPW proposed FY27 budget. Starting at 12 o'clock and going clockwise, municipal buildings is 1.793 million, which equates to 22% of the budget. And I'll go over all these in much more detail in a minute. Highways is 12% of our overall budget at 974,000. Snow and ice is just 95,000 at 1% of the budget. Street lighting is very modest. We actually hardly ever exceed or even approach that amount, but it's good to have in there in case we have some street light failures that we need to replace. The central fuel depot, 235,000, which is 3% of the budget. That provides fuel for all town fleet vehicles, including fire and PD. Transfer station is our largest category, 26% of the budget at 2.189 million. Sewer department is 23% at 1.9 million. Cemetery is relatively small at 1%, 71,000. Parks and grounds at 9% at 742,000. And again, Terry Whalen's project administration at 327,000 is 4% of DPW's budget. So the $8,357,551 budget is an increase of $599,418, or 7.73%. $90,197 is due to personnel increases, and $509,221 is operational increases. And I'll break those down further here. So most increases are due to collective bargaining agreements. You'll see an asterisk next to municipal buildings and to cemetery. So municipal buildings, as part of the CBA, we introduced on-call pay to have those facilities employees a little bit more accountable and reactive to show up to emergencies, but also have a way to reimburse them and make it a little bit more financially feasible for them to be on call. There was no incentive for them to, I don't know what I'm saying, it's just no incentive for them to be on call, but we wanted to make sure they were compensated fairly. And the cemetery position went from 35 hours a week to 40 hours a week. All the other ones are basically in line with what the collective bargaining agreements were. So for operational increases, municipal buildings went up 6.6%. Primarily due to, utilities, so $5,000 for gas heat, which isn't very much. considering the number of buildings we have. But the biggest increase was electric utilities, $100,000. That includes all town facilities, so it's, you know, it's moderate for every facility. I'm sure you're all familiar with your electric bills, how they've increased lately. This basically matches what we've been spending every year. It's not, we're not asking for any kind of a windfall. It's just to make up for the amount we're actually spending in electrical costs. Highways is a 5.1% increase. $5,000 is modest just for operational supplies. Those are those things that don't fall into some of the other categories where we would spend it, you know, for fleet equipment or other things. They're just kind of a catch-all for just equipment that we need to operate at highways. Sewer is a 9.1% increase. 53,873 is due to the contracted services with Veolia. They're starting their third year of a 5-year contract, and that's already been built into their contract for all 5 years. Again, electrical utilities is up $61,000. We have brought 4 new pumping stations online, and part of that is just to cover some of those electrical costs. And lastly is $41,000 for solid waste disposal. That's more of like a biosolids, rags, grease, things that are very difficult to get rid of, expensive to transport. There's no place on Cape Cod that will accept this. We are sending the stuff currently to Ohio. We're putting it on rail cars and sending it to Ohio. A lot of it's laden with PFAS chemicals. So there aren't many New England states that will accept this, so we have to ship it halfway across the country to get it disposed of.
Hey, Rob, just before you move the slide, the municipal buildings, so the title is DPW operational increases.
Correct.
Electrical utilities is 100,000. What's the budget for electric? I'm sure it's in my book, but do you know offhand?
Over last year, I know they were over budget by 85,000. I don't know if Carrie has that available. I probably brought it with me, but
Let me see if I can find it.
In any event, that is the increase, the $100,000 on whatever the other
that's the
amount.
increase, correct?
That,
It's much more than $100,000.
It's 332.8 last year, 432.8 is budgeted this year.
Thank you.
that's are we leaving the lights on? No, I'm not, doesn't that seem like a lot?
It does. I mean, we've gone through a lot of LED lighting upgrades over the years. It's
And we're adding to our solar, cadre, so that should be
Correct.
helping, you would think.
It does help. Every
Yeah.
little bit helps. That's why we're promoting these programs.
Right, but if it's 300 and some odd thousand and we're going up by 100,000, I don't know if that's just better accounting. It sounds like that seems like a lot.
I think we were over budget 85,000 last year. We're just trying to account for that increase. We probably needed it last year also.
Yeah.
But it wasn't requested at the time.
Thank you.
Can I just say something about that? So it was over budget last year, so this is accounting for that over budget. And like Rob said, this is for all the town buildings.
Right.
So it all goes in there. Our solar revenue is an offset in the bill that we get. The revenue comes to the town and the revenue in like local receipts.
Yeah.
And then we pay the invoices as they come in.
So what's the percentage increase? What did you say, 300? What was the?
30.05%. 30%.
It's, yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah, we went way over budget last year in electric.
And when you go way over budget, the 85,000, let's say, just gets pulled from somewhere else to balance it.
Correct, yep. Transfer, yep.
Okay.
Go ahead, Eric.
Thank you. You mentioned the solar revenue and going somewhere else and not directly offsetting here. How much is that's coming back and going into another category?
So we took in probably roughly around 500,000 in solar revenue last year. And it goes into the revenue. So I've seen where I've worked in towns where it's actually offset on the invoice, so you'll see the credit on
Sure.
there, but on our invoices, it doesn't come
do
that way.
And I actually didn't hear the number when you were down there, but so we're close to fully offsetting our electrical costs. We just are paying for it in different ways.
Yeah, yeah.
Correct.
Continue. So we come down to transfer station, substantial increase, 18.1%. CMAS tipping and trucking increased by $80,000. Recycling material removal increased by $150,000. All other categories are level funded. So CMAS tipping just went up 4.5% on January 1st. July 1st, our trucking contract will go up as well. So this is to cover some of those expenses.
You're coming, sorry.
So, Rob, what's the sore point on recycling? Where are we really not doing well?
Since China closed our recycling markets, we make a little bit of money on cardboard, newspaper, metal, glass we can't get rid of, and the biggest one is plastics.
So what happens in the system, in the recycling world?
So we take it to a third party, and they try to find the highest and best use value of it. There's not a lot of market out there for second-hand plastics.
Plastics and glass.
Yeah. Glass we take to Dennis, it's ground, and we try to reuse it. We find other markets for it, but it's more of a waste product.
Can you melt glass and reuse it? I'm making it up. I have no idea. But
the problem with plastics is you have to add virgin plastic to recycle it, and you can only recycle it once. So you have to find that use that, like some of the poly furniture that's out there, things of that nature. But most plastic is not recyclable. As much as the industry wants you to believe it's recyclable, it's not recyclable.
I just harken back to the movie The Graduate. Plastics, my boy, plastics. It turns out plastics are a nightmare.
Barbara?
They don't degrade. They're in the ocean. They're everywhere. They're inside us anyway. We'll be quiet, but.
Barbara?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So Rob, is there really any point in our separating out all the plastics and glass? I mean, are we saving money recycling them the way that we are, as opposed to just throwing them into regular, all mixed together recyclables?
It's absolutely cheaper for us to send those separated materials to different vendors. Commingled recycling materials cost almost as much as taking it to a landfill. So we can gain a little bit by having folks continue to separate it. Some of our commercial haulers still bring commingled recycling material for us to dispose of, and that's one of our bigger expenses.
Okay, thanks.
So Rob, you're coming before us on the 3rd, before the Select Board, on the 3rd of March, where we're depositing trash at the transfer station.
That's correct.
There'll be a public hearing on that. We waited for the Economic Development Committee to come forward with a recommendation. So that was the reason for the delay. And I know the Finance Committee inputted into that. So we'll hear your recommendation. Then we have to advertise it for 2 weeks, and Kathy has already placed the ad for the first week. Okay.
Tracy,
somebody.
you had a question?
Yeah, thanks, Rob. For the sake of everyone hearing it said out loud, would it be fair to say that the bulk of the plastics that get sent to be recycled are actually burned?
I'm not really sure what the venue where we bring our plastics, I'm not sure what they do with it. I would imagine they do incinerate it for energy, but I can't say for sure.
Okay.
Okay? So continuing with the DPW operational increases, Parks and Grounds contracted services for $20,000. That's kind of a new increase, and that's to address pruning and cutting for park trees that has been deferred for a number of years. Tom Barr, my deputy director, just received his tree warden certificate, so he's planning on going out and identifying some of those areas where maintenance hasn't been as robust as we would like. So we're going to address that and get rid of some of those hazard trees and hazard branches that have been plaguing some of the parks. All other categories are level funded. Cemeteries level funded. Snow and ice, street lighting, Central Fuel Depot are all level funded. So we have county contracts with salt and street lighting management and for fuel supply as well. So we've been very fortunate enough with our all the towns in Barnstable County going through the Barnstable County bid, and we've been getting pretty good prices lately. So there's really no need to increase those. And projects administration, again, this is under Terry Whalen. It's a modest increase, $2,000. It looks like it's larger at 41.2%, but it's only I think it was only a $4,000 line item. So adding $2,000 is for meeting dues and travel.
Stephen?
Thanks, Andy. Rob, do you or perhaps Carrie have the snow and ice figures for fiscal year 25 total and for FY 26 year to date? I'm kind of curious where we've landed relative to our $85,000 line item.
So in 2025, we spent $153,000. We were over by $58,000 in snow and ice. And so far this year, we've spent $158,000 and we're over by $63,000. And it's only February.
So I guess I would wonder why we're only budgeting $85,000 then on a going forward basis if we smashed that figure the last 2 years.
Yep, it's 95, not 85, but very good question. So last year, so snow and ice, you're able to raise on the recap when you go over, or we'll have to do a budget transfer into snow and ice this year.
Yeah, I'm aware that
Yep.
the state that DOR regs allow us to do that. I'm just wondering if wouldn't it be more prudent to forecast a more reasonable number based on historic outcomes.
Yes, and I don't disagree with you. Overtime is obviously increasing with salaries, overtime increases. And over the years, I feel like the salt is probably increased as well.
It's about $73 a ton. I think it was maybe 71 last year, 68 the year before.
Okay.
But I think in 2023, we had such a mild winter that we didn't even exceed that budget. So we used maybe half of it. So, and I think we purchased salt maybe in one time. So
Yeah, I think in '24, we didn't exceed.
it's so weather dependent, it's hard to put a really solid number to it.
Understood. I think we can probably confidently put this on a list of things you'll be hearing about from us on the 17th. Thank you.
One other
I'm sorry.
search. So the Parks and Rec were increasing by 25.1%, to prune the trees. We hired 2 new Parks and Rec people, I think, last year. Did we add 2?
We did, yes.
Which I think was needed. Are these like special trees they can't prune? I'm just wondering, why are we contracting out when we have hopefully more people?
Sure, and we do a lot of the tree pruning and limbing ourselves. Some of them are specialty cutting, where, you may need a climber or a specialty piece of equipment to get up there. I don't want to put our folks in, they're not trained to handle that kind of like expert level trimming. I think that's why it's been deferred for so long. But we certainly handle a lot of the tree removal and a lot of the smaller, easier to manage tree trimming ourselves in-house.
And do we have a lift, a lull?
We do.
Yeah.
It's you can't really put it in a park. It's a genie lift, so it's much bigger.
Right.
And we have a scissor lift, but that you need it that's more for buildings.
Right. Thank you.
You're welcome. And that's the operating budget. I can jump into the capital requests next, unless there are any questions. Okay.
Go ahead.
So this is an annual, most of these are annual requests. This is $10,000 for just some of the water main service replacements. At the end of 2024, we submitted Chatham's service line inventory to DEP for evaluation. We're obligated to send out reminder letters to those customers where we were unable to confirm what their water line was made of, either on the public side or the private side. So we're narrowing down that list as property owners continue to reach out to us to identify what that material is. At some point in the future, we'll likely beef this annual request up quite a bit because we'll have to do exploratory digging to really, the last several hundred that we can identify. We don't have any records. We would have to actually excavate a hole and do a physical observation of what that line is made out of. But for now, I think $10,000 is appropriate. Another annual request is for OSHA compliance. This has been historically $50,000 a year, but I think we are getting in better position now for our safety issues. So this will handle many of the things that OSHA monitors, including safety data sheets, lockout, tagout, flammable storage containers, personal protective equipment, machine guarding, things of that nature that get us into compliance with OSHA. Again, this is another annual request for $5,000. It's the annual bike trail maintenance. We work in collaboration with the Bikeways Committee every year to look at signage and prioritize improvements, fence repair, things of that nature. This has been historically an adequate amount of funding to handle what comes up in every year.
Tracy?
Does it ever come up about plowing the bike path?
No, we typically don't. I know a lot of towns don't plow their bike paths.
Some
Kristen?
They would.
Kristen?
Thank you. Wondering about, I know other towns along the bike path, they have all sorts of lights and flashing signals and everything. It looked like something might have been going up on Sam Ryder. Are there plans for that? Or is there money budgeted, or I don't know how those things get paid for? Is there any plans for those? Thank you.
Sure. So we have one on, recently installed on Sam Ryder, one on Meeting House Road, and one on Old Queen Anne Road. Those are the more higher volume roads. Sam Ryder Road was just installed this fall. That was through a grant through Mass DOT. So they bought the equipment for us. We did the installation ourselves. I would like eventually to maybe see all the intersections signalized. I at least want to see ADA compliant, detectable warning surfaces at each road crossing. Some of the traffic volumes, even for Sam Ryder Road, we submitted the application, and I wasn't even sure we'd get it because it was so far, the traffic volumes are so far under what the state requirements were. I just said, all right, I'll throw the application in, but I didn't really think we were going to get it, and they gave us one. So I don't want to oversign in a rural condition, so I think we'd have to take it and see what comes of it.
Rob, if I might, I would prioritize stepping stones in that effort as well for signage.
Okay.
Forward.
Thank you. There's another annual request, $20,000 for road, sidewalk, and parking area repairs. We try to do preventative maintenance to anticipate for some of these things, but, we have an aging infrastructure, and sometimes things come up that we don't historically have the budgeting for. So it's nice to have that extra $20,000 that we can fall back on if needed.
Rob, do you plan on, do you have like a sidewalk replacement or expansion plan, or are there any upcoming this year? I had some inquiries about sidewalks.
So I'm just scheduling a meeting with Beta Group, who had done a sidewalk evaluation in 2018 for Chatham. I'm looking to do it with Beta, of course, with AI technology they use now. There are a couple of really good companies out there that they work with. So we'd look at paving conditions, sidewalk, and signage, and we can build an asset management program and build in a budget to replace as needed as the conditions warrant. So right now, it's a little outdated. It's on paper. We don't have access to the electronic files. But going forward, I think we're going to be in a much better place, and we'll be able to address those issues.
And right now, it's simply a citizen coming forward and making a request and somehow getting it into a,
No, it's more manual. So we do evaluations manually by observation, but there's always, leaves room for things to get missed. So that's why we want to do it, systematically with AI.
yeah, there was a request for between Pond Street and the Rotary, which was kind of an interesting request in that there's no sidewalk there, but it would connect to busy places and places that have sidewalks. And I'm just curious how that would come to fruition.
So we're, with this AI technology, we will be looking at existing infrastructure and how do we repair that?
Right.
Not new locations.
So new would be,
locations are, a citizen request, basically.
yeah, they come forward with the neighbors and say, this is what we'd like to see, and the town would evaluate that and budget if appropriate.
Exactly.
Thanks.
Well, we do have an agenda item forthcoming in the future on a sidewalk master plan that's been on our agenda, our wish list for quite a while. But I just hearken back to two of the more recent developments, or Harding's Beach not so much, but you can literally walk from the bike trail all through West Chatham, and you can walk all the way to Harding's Beach on a sidewalk. It's wonderful. I'm a fan. And then the improvements that we made to Old Queen Anne Road from Route 28 up to the bike trail, again, tying infrastructure, walking infrastructure in the town is a really good idea. And we attempted once at Stage Harbor, God forbid, Stage Harbor Road, God forbid. But that's a very highly traversed and very active area going from downtown, from Oyster Pond and downtown all the way down to the harbor. Very active with trucks and commercial vehicles and lots of pedestrians. So I'm a real fan of sidewalks, and I hope we can get this master plan cooking here and really get a good analysis done, because I really do think it improves the quality of life in our town. Thanks.
Well, as you know, the Stage Harbor issue, I mean, it all came down to right-of-way and easements, and that's typically what our biggest challenge is.
Gotcha, Rob. I just use it as an example of
Well, there was significant
negatives and positives.
Significant neighborhood opposition to it. That was what killed it.
Sorely needed.
Okay, so here's road resurfacing, again, an annual request for $100,000. This request is typically $200,000, but Governor Healy increased Chapter 90 funding by 50% last year. She proposed the same this year, so we want to try to defer some of that and give the taxpayers $100,000 back, or at least use that money for a loader request, which is coming up later in this budget. Road maintenance, $25,000. Again, it's an annual request. We did increase it $5,000 this year. The cost of asphalt, things of that nature, hot mix, cold patch. Shown here is Aquafalt. It's a relatively new product. It's really good for patching potholes in the wintertime, and it's activated by water. But it's better than cold patch, but it's not cheap. It's about $55 a bucket. So we try to only use those in areas that are high traffic, and it's a risk for our folks to be out there repeatedly patching potholes. We try to do it once and leave it, and we'll address it again in the spring or summer. And here's the sidewalk construction annual request for $100,000. Projects like the library site plan that'll be done this summer. We'll pull some of the money from sidewalks. We have Cedar Street, when we're doing our pump station on Cedar Street. Sidewalks are not included in SRF, so we can use sidewalk funds for that improvement. So
Rob,
it's nice to have a budget.
Rob, when is the library bid going out, or has it gone out?
I believe it's March 3rd is the latest date. I think bids are going to be open on March 3rd.
So it's already gone out?
No, it has not gone out yet.
Okay.
I'm sorry, bids will be, I think, advertised March 3rd. I just got a notice from Terry today or yesterday.
Okay. Can we notify the library director and the trustees? Can that?
Yes, I
Because they've
have.
asked about it.
Including it's going through permitting as well with some of the town boards and the directors aware of it.
Yeah,
It's HBDC tomorrow and planning board next week.
okay.
I mean, we had some concern that it wasn't going to get done before July 4th. I think that's one of the issues.
I share those concerns.
Okay, thanks.
So property management, building maintenance projects, this is typically it was a Terry Whalen budget, but last year, DPW took over all the facility budgeting items. So we work very closely between DPW and projects administration. This is a $200,000 annual request for some of those larger repair, replacement items that happen at some of our facilities. I know last year we did a lot of roof work at the community center, about $50,000 worth of roof repairs to prevent leaks in the gymnasium. So that came out of this fund. This was a $250,000 for ADA improvements. I believe this is a 5-year period ATM article for a total of $1,250,000. This is just basically the next fiscal year installation of that. Shown here is the treasurer collector's office, where we put in a new counter, lower counter for wheelchair residents that would be visiting. We did the same at the town clerk's office. I think it came out really nice. So this is not an annual, this is a special request for a fire alarm at the police department. The police department is about 11 years old, and all the fire equipment has become obsolete. It's still working, but we're having challenges with it reporting to the fire alarm company. So this would include replacing the fire alarm and replacing the initiating devices like the smoke detectors and things of that nature. Very similar situation at the annex since they were built at the same time. It's a little bit less expensive, but it's $80,000 to do a very similar project at the annex at the same time.
Rob, I feel like we built this place yesterday, but 11 years. Can we expect that we're going to have to replace fire alarm systems to the tune of $80,000 and $90,000 every 11 years in these buildings?
It
seems like, that doesn't seem.
Technology, it changes so fast, and a lot of the components wear, and they're just not reliable. I mean, when it comes to fire equipment, you don't want to jeopardize anything that way.
Oh, no, I'm not suggesting that. I'm simply saying that, that seems like a more frequent than I would have thought. You know, the one at the fish pier that's in a totally worse conditions is older than that.
This came under recommendation of our fire equipment monitoring company.
Do they sell it as well? Thanks.
They do, but we are having challenges with them receiving the signals at their monitoring plant. So, we vetted this through projects administration and our facilities group, and we think it's the best path forward. Public restroom improvements, $20,000. This, again, is another annual request. Many of our restrooms, public restrooms, are getting older. They are very heavily used in the summertime. This is the town hall restroom that we recently renovated. We are renovating the Veterans Field restroom. So we have funding for heat and insulation, and we're doing many of the renovation projects in-house with our facilities group to save money. That was the result of the vandalism that occurred there last fall. And this is a transfer station loader, $200,000 to replace the 10-year-old John Deere 624K front-end loader. It's got 16,000 hours on the engine. It's used 360 days a year. to handle municipal and commercial solid waste, construction debris, mulch and brush. Full price is $310,000. I'll use Chapter 90 funds for $110,000 of it, and the $200,000 is part of this request. We've seen frequent breakdowns with this loader, high repair costs. It's been out of service for about 2.5 months over the past 2 years, just in different times. Recently, we had the piston, the main piston that raises the bucket was leaking. We had it repaired, but the company that we had repair it said if we had to buy a new one, there's only 2 left in the country is what they told us. So parts are becoming obsolete for equipment of this age. Another request for $26,000 for mowers and a landscape trailer, 32-inch stand-on commercial mower and a 48-inch ride-on commercial mower with the landscape trailer. We have those 2 additional Parks and Grounds employees. We'd like to get some equipment to keep them at operable efficiency. We're finding a need for mowers this size with the cemetery maintenance.
Grayson?
Oops, sorry. The industry, there's a move in the industry to move towards electric. Has there been any thought to sort of phasing out our gas-powered equipment?
It's a great question. So we did buy a green machine, I want to say 2 years ago. It's a 36-inch mower. It's great for some conditions, but it's not great for every condition. Our Parks and Grounds staff are struggling with that mower at the cemeteries. It's very heavy because of the battery packs. Didn't have the power that they needed. They would prefer to stay with gas-powered at this moment. But we do use the green machine for other areas. It's just not conducive to cemetery maintenance.
Yeah, I guess I just having owned one and using it in a field, I don't know, ours works pretty good, so but understand that it's hard to transition. But I'm glad you at least have one piece of equipment that's electric. Thanks.
And we've gone to some electric pole saws and chainsaws and things of that nature as well, just to try to get away from as much of the petroleum-based engines that we can. This is for a $14,000 request for an athletic field line striper, again for our Parks and Grounds division. The existing walk-behind line striper is approximately 10 years old and needs constant repair and adjustment. This is a ride-on mower. Every time we mow the middle school fields, they have to be line striped. The athletic fields have to be line striped. We also have to mow when we mow the volunteer park fields, they have to be line striped as well. Currently, it's a walk-behind model, so this would be much more efficient. And that's it for the DPW budget. And I can jump into the water department if everybody's okay with that, or unless there are any questions.
Okay. Any other? Corey?
I'm going to tread lightly on venturing into this conversation, but so with the transfer station, basically, it's an operation, it's a commercial operation, it makes noise and everything else. And we've had internal discussions about how we best could remedy that. Where in the budget is our potential solution paths factored into all this?
So for what we talked about, possible noise mitigation?
Right, we discussed maybe, would it be a physical structure down the road would make some sense, and before we went to that degree, to do a study to understand where the noise is coming from, where it's going in, and if we have any opportunity to block it with a physical barrier, basically.
So I have our engineer that's designing phase 1 of the transfer station, looking into that. They have some noise expert consultants that they've worked with. I would like to see how we are with the bidding, to see if we have any money left over in that, either in that line item in the budget to either fund a wall or at least have the engineering done for the consultant to really evaluate the site.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Guess we can go into the water budget.
Okay. So the water department increases are projected at 4.68%. It's much more modest than last year. I think we were up around 15%. Water fund salary was voted at $288,000 last year. It's up to $304,000 this year. That's again primarily just due to contract salaries. And I think I broke it down here. Here we go. Some of that's due to overtime and some is due to longevity, but that's really the personnel costs. Water fund expense increases are 7.9%. Again, electricity rearing its head one more time. Printing and postage costs, we saw a large amount of increases there, primarily because I mentioned before the DEP lead service inventory, and also with a lot of the irrigation meter and fines and things of that nature. So we had to do a lot of mailings and printings this past year. I don't see that going away. It may be reduced a little bit, but I think this amount kind of helps us bridge that gap from last year. $73,000 for meter replacements. We did buy a large number of meters this past year, primarily for the irrigation meters. I think we bought over 600 meters. Luckily, Veolia, our contracted services, we were able to piggyback on some of their contracts. So they got us basically a discounted rate. They have international contracts with some vendors. We followed all procurement laws, and we were able to take advantage of that bulk buying power that they have. And then contracted services, that's part of the 5-year contract. We're just going to be entering year 3, and that's the increase in their service contract. All other categories are level funded. And then I'm going to look to Carrie on this because those highlighted areas are her expertise, where we talk about overhead and debt service.
I had one question before, well, Carrie's thinking about that. If you backed up to the water meters.
Yes.
You might recall I had asked about the reimbursement of for water meters that had been, people had done, I think it was 6 or 8 weeks ago. And I was told that there's a process for which people could go through that. I just want to confirm that process actually exists because.
Are you talking about water meters or grinder pumps for sewer?
Grinder pumps, I'm sorry, but
Okay.
related to, is that still, does that process exist?
We are still working on it. So we've been before the Water and Sewer Advisory Committee a couple of times now to revise the language so we can change the sewer rules and regulations. We've just vetted that with Town Council. It's going to be back on the Water and Sewer Advisory Committee meeting agenda this coming month, and then they'll make a recommendation to the Select Board after that.
Okay, thanks.
Have you made a contractual arrangement to acquire the pumps?
Yes, we have, and we're negotiating when they can be delivered. We have 45 in the first delivery. Next week, we have training set up for the licensed utility installers. We're using the firehouse, and we're going to have a mandatory training for all the installers so they can continue the 5-year manufacturer's warranty. They'll need to be certified in order for that warranty to be effective. So we are moving forward.
When do you see us actually installing them and also reimbursing folks that paid for installation themselves previously?
I think once the Select Board approves that language, it'll
in the
be
policy.
okay for people to start seeing, getting that reimbursement, working on the paperwork that we'll have to develop.
Okay, thank you.
I don't have a delivery date yet for for when we get the first grinder pumps in town.
This is from F.W. Mahoney?
F.R. Mahoney, yes.
F.R. Mahoney.
Yep.
If you want, I can speak about the overhead. The overhead costs, so the indirect costs for items such as pension, health insurance for the employees that work in the water department. And then also there's percentages for indirect costs for the use of other town departments that get used by the water department. So HR, accounting, treasurer collectors, town manager's office. And then there's Medicare that gets paid on payroll, that gets a portion paid from the water department as well. So they're supposed to be self-funded, so all these, that's what the overhead costs are, indirect costs.
Are these town employees or are they Veolia?
Nope, they're town employees. Yep, they get paid out of the water department, so a portion of Rob's salary gets paid out of the water department, a portion of his administrative assistant. I think there's a couple of them that get paid out of water, and then I think Tom also gets paid out of there.
I think he has a portion also, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
So we raised rates a while back there, 4, 5, 6 months ago. How are we tracking? Any idea how we're tracking in terms of our budget?
Oh, it's good. I have to run another revenue report for the water department, but we are tracking really much better this year than we did last year.
At one point, we were projecting a $700-something thousand loss.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Good.
That been wiped out? I mean, we were heading into deficit and we raised rates. We took a lot of heat
Correct.
from doing it, but we did it.
We are tracking much better. So we did hit some of our fund balance last year. I worked with Rob. We closed out a couple of old capital items that helped with the, hitting the fund balance too much, but it did get hit by probably like 600,000 last year.
Right.
Thanks.
Good, thank you.
You're welcome.
We still have Waterworth on the hook, so they'll be doing a presentation at the next Water Sewer Advisory Committee, more related to sewer, but he can answer any questions on water, and I think he's got the current update, so he'll be able to show what the projections are. So there's only one capital request for the Water Department, and that's a big one. It's $2.3 million for painting of the water storage tank. American Water Works Association recommends the protective coating is reapplied every 10 years. We're at 15 years now. It was last painted in 2011. It's called paint, but it's really a protective coating. It's if we look through some of the issues that were discovered, these pictures, I only had them digitally from 2022, but we have modern, 2025 inspection pictures as well. There's not really a substantial change, but you can see some of the anchor bolts. There's corrosion, manway corrosion starting to show, corrosion up at the roof hatch, roof chalking, which shows that the paint is thinning, and roof coating loss. The outside coating has a life expectancy of between 8 and 10 years. Again, we're at 15 now. There's no cathodic protection on the inside of the tank. So when they do this, they would drain the tank, clean it, and paint the inside as well. A lot of times with cathodic protection, they'll use, like in your hot water heater, you have like a magnesium rod that kind of makes all the rust and corrosion adhere to it. Water tanks have similar things, or they have, you can send electrical charge through the tank itself, and it creates a protective surface on the inside. We don't have any of that. We rely on the painted surface on the inside, and that's all we have between the water supply and corrosion. So I think it's pretty important. I know this has been on kind of a draft budget of mine for a couple of years now, but I think the time has come where we really want to push this forward and try to get it approved.
I think when you present this to town meeting, you should especially focus on that third bullet, because it's not just, getting a couple of brushes and painting the exterior of this facility.
Yeah, they would sandblast the entire exterior, strip all the paint, repaint it, and do the protective surface on the inside as well.
Yeah, I think that emphasizing the inside is going to be real important, because I think people might miss that.
Do they sandblast the inside as well, or there's no
I
need?
think they treat it. I don't think they sandblast it, though.
Yeah. And then, it's down. We've got enough capacity elsewhere to handle our load?
So the timing is critical.
Yeah.
Springtime would be the likely time. It can't be below freezing, and we can't be ready for summer flows. So we have a window of maybe, March and April.
And does that contribute to the expense? Do they bring extra help in? I mean, this is a big job.
This is everything, includes engineer inspection during construction, and soup to nuts.
Are there specialized, folks?
Yeah,
that
there are
do-
companies that this is all they do. It's not like we're going out for a painting contractor. This is a very specialized.
Oh, no, I get it. I really do get it. But I get it. It's a big job, put it that way.
I think last time they encapsulated the entire water tank when the 1.3 million gallon tank was last recoated,
And then they sandblasted?
and then they sandblasted
Yeah,
again.
yeah.
How long does it take?
Probably at least a month, I would say.
What do you think,
And-
April? I don't know, I'm making it up.
Still
But
snowing.
but again, it'll be another year, by the time we go to annual town meeting and then get the contracts drawn up and lined up for next spring. So it'll be over a year from now.
What's the life expectancy of a standpipe water tank?
Of the tank itself, I think as long as you're up to date on your protective coatings, it could be, 50, 100 years. I mean, I really don't know. But it's preventative maintenance that keeps the
Sure, oh, yeah,
life.
absolutely.
So what's the capacity of this tank? I thought I read it.
1.25 million gallons.
And we have a second tank?
That's 1.35 million.
Okay. Is that coming up for painting at some point?
No, it was painted
Few years ago?
2017. Okay.
Okay.
It's good for a while. I mean, you could tell this is the faded one, the one that looks faded on the outside.
So you're asking the select board tonight to place two items on the warrant. One is the water department operating budget, and the second is the water capital for the water storage tank painting and repairs, the borrowing for it.
That's correct.
So I'm going to, unless there are any questions from the Finance Committee on either of these items, I'm going to ask the select board for a motion. Corey?
I do want to wrap my head around a little bit something. So the previous slide, the coating every 8 to 10 years
That's what
is
American
recommend.
Water Works Association
Recommends, and we're pushing 15.
Correct. It'll be 16 by the time it's actually.
Okay, 16. So my first part of the question is are we compromising the actual structure by that kind of a delay? It's not just a 1 or 2 years. I mean, and if you're saying the other water tank was done in 2017, by the time we put it in our budget, we're going to be looking at least 10 years. So it's really right around the corner for that one.
It is, but we have these tanks inspected annually and cleaned annually. We go by what the inspection report says. If they say the paint is thinning, but it's not failing, we know that's an appropriate time to act. If we had, catastrophic failure, or the welds were leaking, or anything more substantial, we would have pushed this ahead of time. I think we're kind of in a sweet spot right now by delaying it enough and still getting it before we have any major kind of issues.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, I'm going to ask,
Mr. Chair,
yes.
Mr. Dykens had asked how we're tracking on revenues, and I just wanted to look it up for you. So currently, right now, we've taken in just about $4.6 million for the water department, and we still have a few more months to go, so we're tracking pretty good. And let's see where we were last year at this time. It was $4 million last year. so.
Issue 600.
They're 600K, okay.
That's what we were looking at, or 600,
That's what
800,000.
that's what we transferred from fund balance last year.
Okay.
Thank you, Carrie. Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
All right. I'll entertain a motion to place the water operating budget in the amount of $5,703,016 on the warrant. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move that the town vote to appropriate $5,349,586 for direct costs, and further that an additional $353,430 be transferred to the general fund to be applied to overhead and indirect costs associated with the water department operating budget of the town for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2026, for the purposes and the amounts designated in the column titled Proposed Water Budget FY 2027. of article, we don't know yet, of the warrant, and to meet said appropriation, the town raised $5,303,016 through water receipts and raised $400,000 through taxation, for a total of $5,703,016.
So that's a motion to place this on the warrant. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, I'll call the roll. Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Dykens?
Aye.
Mr. Metters?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Is there a motion to recommend?
Move to recommend.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. I'll call the roll. Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Dykens?
Aye.
Mr. Metters?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Next, Mr. Dykens, do you want to make offer a motion on the water tank painting?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I move that the town appropriate $2.3 million for the painting and repairs, the 1.25 million gallon water storage tank, and for all costs incidental and related thereto. That to meet this appropriation, the treasurer, with the approval of the select board, is authorized to borrow $2.3 million under General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 7 and/or 8, or any other enabling authority. That the treasurer, with the approval of the select board, is authorized to contract for any federal or state aid available for the project, provided that the amount of the authorized borrowing shall be reduced by the amount of such aid received prior to the issuance of the bonds or notes under this vote, and that the select board is authorized to take any other action necessary to carry out this project. Any premium received by the town upon the sale of any bonds or notes approved by this vote, less any such premium applied to the payment of the costs of issuance of such bonds or notes, may be applied to the payment of costs approved by this vote in accordance with Chapter 44, Section 20 of the General Laws, thereby reducing the amount authorized to be borrowed to pay such costs by like amount.
So that's a motion to place this on the warrant. Is there a second?
But he didn't say the word place on either one of the motions.
No, I move to place.
Okay, you did, okay. All right, second.
Okay, moved and seconded. I'll call the roll. Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Dykens?
Aye.
Mr. Metters?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Is there a motion to recommend?
Move to recommend, Mr. Chairman.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Dykens?
Aye.
Mr. Metters?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Do we not have to take a vote to place this on the ballot?
Go ahead, Carrie.
No, this doesn't go on the ballot.
It's
paid,
it's borrowing, though.
how do I say this? It's not inside debt, it's outside debt, so it's paid by the water department, which
Okay.
is not contingent on Prop 2.5 like general
Okay.
fund. Yep,
Still a
Thank you.
two-thirds vote at town meeting.
yep, still a 2/3 vote.
Thank you for,
At town meeting, it's two-thirds.
yep. Anything else we need to do? Anything from the Finance Committee like to do?
I think we'd love to adjourn.
We'd love to adjourn. We'll
Well, I
let the
think we should
finance-
thank the,
Well, thank you, thank you. This has been an experiment, and we'll have to determine how we go forward from here. Is there, you want to take an adjournment motion from your
I will.
committee?
Do any of my members have moved to adjourn?
So moved.
All right, that's good, and I will call the roll. Stephen Daniel.
Yes, please.
Aye. Joanne Sprague.
Yes.
Barbara Madison had to leave early. John Papalardo.
Yes.
Kristen Andres.
Yes.
Tracy Shields.
Yes.
Tommy Doan.
Yes.
Eric Whiteley.
Yes.
Chair votes aye. Great, thank you very much. We are adjourned.
Thank you. I'll entertain, Stuart, did you have something you wanted to say?
Yeah, I had a sort of a comment. I was going to make it before the last two votes, but they seemed rather, unexciting, so to speak. Has the Finance Committee voted on those two?
No. No, you haven't voted.
We haven't, no.
They usually defer their votes until the very end.
Correct.
So,
We're
I'm
still in
trying-
session. We're still in session.
yeah,
go
well, yeah, I just was waiting for them to clear out.
ahead. Yeah. Excuse me,
Excuse me, we're still in session,
we're
guys.
still in session here. Go ahead, Stuart.
Well, I'm looking at the charter, 6-3. I thought maybe these had taken place and I had missed it because I'd sort of been away for the last two meetings. But under B, it says the Finance Committee shall make budget recommendations to report those recommendations to the Select Board in sufficient time for the Select Board to consider those recommendations prior to the Select Board voting on operating and capital budgets. So that being the case, should we should we have, well, at least in the future, should we be waiting for the it seems to me we're supposed to be getting recommendations from the Finance Committee and then making our votes.
Go ahead, Jill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the charter has a preliminary recommendation to the Select Board before the Select Board transmits its budget, the FY27 operating and capital budgets, back to the Finance Committee on or before March 1st. So that's what the board will do. I'm sorry. FinCom, the chair will provide a report on the 17th of February, and then the Select Board is scheduled to vote the transmittal of the FY27 operating and capital budgets on the 24th of February.
So.
Jill, just to be clear, though, the reports on the 17th are preliminary from us.
Yes, it's preliminary. So then the formal report will be to town meeting in the warrant from FinCom on the total town financial plan, including warrant articles and the budget.
Okay, so how do we comply with B if I don't see that we're complying with this? Am I missing something?
B, we're going to comply when FinCom comes to make their preliminary recommendations. There's also a bylaw. There's
I saw the bylaw.
two separate areas that we were actually thinking about proposing something to reconcile that for this town meeting, but I'm not sure about that. But nonetheless, so FinCom will provide their preliminary recommendations on February 17th.
To who?
To the Select Board, and then the Select Board before March 1st, which we schedule for February 24th, will actually vote to transmit the town manager's budget, which will become the Select Board at that time, to the FinCom.
FinCom, historically, and I think Stephen may still be on, and I know Andy's here, but they actually don't take votes on their own recommendations until right at the end, just of all the, they'll have multiple meetings over the next several weeks. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, we typically, Dean, I don't know if you can hear me.
We
guess the
can,
camera's
yes,
been
we
turned
can,
off.
we can.
Yeah, so we kind of do them as we can after we make our preliminary report back to you guys. Sometimes we have to wait on you guys to place an article on the warrant. Sometimes my technique, whatever, has been to start chipping away at things like what we heard tonight, the various budget categories, the various department budgets, so we can get those done before we really have to focus on the warrant articles, the capital articles in the warrant, let me say.
Okay, well, I'm getting that process, but it seems to conflict, well, it doesn't seem to, it conflicts with this provision. The provision says the Finance Committee shall make budget recommendations and report those recommendations to the Select Board in sufficient time for the Select Board to consider those recommendations prior to the Select Board voting on the operating and capital budgets. Didn't we just do that with the water?
So if I may, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt.
No, not at all.
So since I've been here, it's been that we start the budget season. You guys see operating and capital requests that you just saw. And then also the FinCom looks at the operating and capital requests. And then the FinCom will come and do a recommendation on what they believe before you vote on the final operating and capital. And it's always been just the general fund operating and the regular 5-year capital, not necessarily the water department. It just says, that's how it's been.
Right.
And that, Stuart, that'll be delivered on 17
Yep.
February, 2 weeks from today.
Yep.
I'm sorry, I missed you, Stephen?
Sorry, that'll be delivered to you guys on 17 February, 2 weeks from today.
And then what you're saying is, I guess.
And you guys finalize the budget based on any input you may choose to take from us and transmit it back to us.
Yeah,
for us to
okay,
start voting
I
on.
can see how it's been done, and, at least since you've been here, maybe before, Carrie, I don't know. I think we need to explore this, because clearly, we're not in sync with this provision, because we just voted on the operating budget for the water department and a capital budget, both of which I supported. I'm just trying to get the process down, so when the public goes to try to figure out what our process is, that we're all playing off the same sheet of music. And however expedient what you're saying is fine. It's definitely not in compliance with this. So either we change this provision of the charter to, which I'm not opposed to, if it to work with how we're working currently, but this provision, this vote should have waited until we had heard from the Finance Committee.
So isn't the most expeditious resolution for you guys not to take further votes for the next 2 weeks?
Well, yeah, that's fine.
It's going to be easier than changing the charter.
Okay, that's fine with me, Stephen. What I'm saying is, what I'm trying to outline is that today's vote was inconsistent at best with the charter.
Understood.
So moving forward, we can fix that, and maybe next year we can, just keep that in mind, that, that exists. We should be doing that, I think. That's, we all rose our right hand and said, hey, we're going to enforce the charter, we ought to do it. And I think it's important that we all play off the same sheet of music. And like I said, I supported the budgets. I just like the process to follow some accepted sheet of music, and I don't think this one did.
Well, we should keep an eye to this going forward.
Motion to adjourn, Mr. Chairman.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Dykens?
Aye.
Mr. Metters?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. We are adjourned at 6:57 PM. Thank you. Good night.